Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's the RambleCast. We have we're into February, and
We are somehow. I thought it was still March
2020.
of 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah. March never ended. My life will just be pre-March 2020 and post-March 2020. That's the only time frame that matters.
it do feel like that. It do be like that a lot. Um, and yeah, I mean, companies are acquiring companies everywhere, left and right, which is pretty much where we're starting for today's story. I don't know why I immediately jumped into that when I didn't have the uh, browser share set up yet. So I'm gonna do that while
I'm still opening the chat. I'm always slow to do this. Put that down there. Put this up here.
and you know how it works. You know by now chat should be open.
Yeah, it just takes a lot of clicks. And once again, I'll share the stream, do Cody's job for him.
One of these days I'll actually do that for real. I do mean to start. The only thing is I need to actually... I keep putting it off. I need to change the graphics. I need to do things. I don't know why I don't. Actually, I know exactly why I don't. I'm busy with other stuff, but yeah. One of these days I will clear my plate and actually work on graphics again.
You will eventually set this up just like I will eventually get to that game in my Steam library, which is never.
I don't feel like that's entirely true. I think you'll get to that Steam game.
Yeah. Maybe, there'll be another like hyper lockdown where if you don't stay in your home, you just immediately die from whatever is circulating in the outside air. At which point I will have probably more time to play Steam games.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So what do I want to talk about first? We can start off with something that seems very boring, but is kind of interesting when you think about it for more than like 10 seconds. And also I saw this reported in a couple other places with varying editorial stances.
You're really selling this topic.
I know. So I'll put this in the the Discord if I can find it on this list. And there it is. I'll also put my article there that extracted some stuff. But basically, this is another like industry report of sales from quarter 4 of 2021, because now we're in quarter 1 of 2022, so we can look back and see how the last quarter was. And this is kind of interesting because this report focused on shipments of Chromebooks and tablets, and it was kind of interesting. Before reading this, I would have assumed that we had a massive peak of sales for both of these things in 2020, and then it leveled off last year in 2021. But that's actually not true. So what happened was, again, this is all industry estimates. What happened is there was a lot of growth in 2020, obviously. If I remember trying to find laptops in stock that were not garbage throughout much of 2020 and failing. But in 2021, looking at the entire year of 2020 versus 2021, there was still growth. It was still climbing. Maybe because they were still catching up on demand from the previous year. But like when you look at Chromebooks, for example, and the year-over-year growth, let me see to make sure. There's a bunch of tables here. I want to read from the right one. But yeah, like Apple, Samsung, Lenovo, and Amazon all sold more tablets in 21 than 20. Only Huawei, out of the top manufacturers, dropped. I assume they were having manufacturing issues, but they were also having like manufacturing issues during 2020. So I'm not, I'm not sure what's up there. I looked and they haven't I was specifically talking about tablets there, and they haven't made a new tablet in a while, so that might be also part of it. Yeah, but yeah, so like tablet sales went up across all the major manufacturers. Chromebook sales went up, but in the last quarter of last year, there was a sharp decline, very sharp decline, which is interesting because it's still like kind of sort of in like school buying season. Like you're still, that's October, November, December. Most people buy what they need before then, like in quarter three, but plans change, or something breaks. And also quarter four is obviously holiday shopping for a lot of the world. So kind of surprising it went down this much. But like Apple, for example, they sold 8.6% fewer tablets in quarter four of last year versus quarter four of 2020. Samsung dropped 21%, Lenovo dropped 25%, and so on. And the Chromebook sales numbers were even more striking. So like Acer dropped 43%, Dell dropped 63%, Lenovo dropped 73%. I don't recall. I kind of forgot Lenovo made Chromebooks, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
but they did.
Well, don't they only make them for educational, or maybe it was educational and business? Like, I don't think they really do consumer directed.
I know I've tried Lenovo Chromebooks, and I know you can buy them. I don't know how hard they angle the retail market. Like, I know Dell really doesn't try with retail Chromebooks. Like they've always been very education focused. Like HP dropped 86% quarter over quarter, which is year over year for the fourth quarter. I hopefully that number stays at zero because they make really bad laptops, or Chromebooks specifically. I've tried one HP laptop that was kind of okay, but that was basically a netbook, so it's kind of hard to be worse than the average there. But yeah, so like I saw like Chrome Unboxed covered this and in kind of like a don't freak out mode, which I thought was kind of interesting. But like I don't know, it's interesting to me. Like before I was looking at this, again, like I said, I would have thought that 2021 would have been a decline, but it wasn't. It kept growing. So I think maybe now we're finally starting to see that surge of demand end. So of course it looks drastic, but that's because the increase was so dramatic, with working from home and everything else.
If I was to make any guesses about this, I think part of it would definitely be like leftover demand, because obviously there's just, again, like you said, there's been people who have been trying to buy some of these things for a year, and there really have been stocking issues. I imagine part of this is because prices have also gone up on a few things just due to the chip shortage, which obviously led to all of the, again, obvious product and supply chain shortages, which
stuff going out of stock, which would affect shipments.
Exactly. So, and as the most popular things go out of stock, if people are becoming more and more aware of the market, because a lot of people probably are, then they don't want to buy the products that are like old and undesirable. So I imagine a lot of stuff is, even though it may be in stock, people are trying not to buy that. So yeah, I have a feeling that this is kind of market correction territory where it was the inevitable thing that was going to happen. Now we're just seeing it. I guess if anything, I'd be kind of surprised that tablets had much of a spike. That seems strange.
Yeah, because like I know like one of the early takeaways from the work from home shift is this kind of realization that I think a lot of like middle and high schoolers had, and maybe some parents too, where it's like, oh wait, I can't work on a tablet. Like when
Yeah.
you need to get serious work done, the mobile web browsers on most tablets and the if they exist at all, attachment keyboards, most of them are garbage. Um, it's just having an actual physical keyboard and a touchpad and everything else makes everything easier. And that seemed to be one of the initial takeaways. It seemed from the pandemic, because like everyone's been buying tablets for years, and there's been this message that like a lot of kids just like they only have tablets or smartphones. Like you don't really need a computer for a lot of stuff anymore. But then when you need to actually get real work done from home, uh, we're like, okay, tablets tablet will now just be the Netflix rectangle. We're gonna get something with a keyboard and touchpad.
Well, so one of the things I know I heard about people doing this, I don't know how common it was, but I know especially during the infamous like shortage of webcams, there were people who were buying like phones and tablets, using them purely as like their video chat tool. And obviously tablets were more popular for this than phones, but you use what you use. And like that was their means of doing video chat, and then they would sit down at their computer and just use the computer normally. So I think that drove some tablet sales for a good 6, maybe even 9 months. But then after that, like I'm sure tablets would have dropped off after that, but I guess judging by this, it took a while. It like maybe that persisted as a reason to get a tablet.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I just thought that was kind of interesting because again, my guess would have been that we were already past this point of the sharp decline. Now that presumably everyone who needed to work from home has already got what they need in theory. But nope, that seemed to be what the last quarter was, and I'll be interested to see how this continues. But I mean, yeah, but like even before this, like, and I know this was Chrome Unbox's angle too, of like Chromebooks had an amazing time during the pandemic. Like, not a lot of things were getting better or improving. I think Chrome OS itself is still not good, but in terms of Chromebooks getting out the door, they had a very good 2020 and 2021.
That is, wow, that's quite the takeaway, because simultaneously, Apple was making a killing during that same time with MacBooks. And wait a second, hold on. I bet if you asked, Windows computers probably were making a killing too.
They were, yeah.
Shocking.
All those
Shocking,
poor
I
people
tell you.
buying Windows computers.
Yeah.
Almost as bad as Chroma. It's okay. I'll stop being the insufferable Linux user. So yeah, so that was kind of interesting. One other thing I can talk about for like 5 minutes. There's not a lot to talk about here. I just thought it was kind of neat. And put this in Ramble. But there was some cool Raspberry Pi news. I like Raspberry Pi stuff. I think they're neat. But one of the main problems with them, especially in the past couple of years, as the hardware goes from like barely functional to kind of okay,
Yeah.
is that they were pretty much still 32-bit. The default operating system that Raspberry Pi makes, which used to be called Raspbian, but now it's just called Raspberry Pi OS. It's like Debian. It's a Debian derivative. that's always been 32-bit. You could install other OSs that were 64-bit, but like this was the one kind of everyone used. And whenever you look up tutorials for things to do with the Raspberry Pi, they're usually using this, so it kind of adds another layer of complication if you go to something else. And they were choosing 32-bit for a bunch of different reasons. Like it was just, fewer things can go wrong. Performance is usually fine. It's maybe a little bit more RAM efficient. I know that's why a lot of like 64-bit Android phones use 32-bit Android, just to like slightly reduce memory usage, because those phones have like 2 gigs of RAM or something silly. But now there is a official stable build of 64-bit Raspberry Pi OS. So now you can use, they mentioned in the blog post, like one of the main reasons they did this was because there's more proprietary software coming to Linux ARM, presumably because of Apple switching to ARM, and so now more companies are compiling their stuff for ARM. But a lot of that wasn't working on the Pi because they're all targeting 64-bit ARM, or like ARM. I think it's ARM v7. I think that's what the official term is. ARM 64. That's what it's called on like Unix. But yeah. So now there's 64-bit Pi OS. This, which I was actually messing with this like a week ago. I dug out my Pi because I needed to test something on ARM Linux, and I didn't really want to set up an emulator. So I was like, okay, I'll go grab my Pi. And then I realized it's 32-bit only, and the thing I needed was not that. So, so this is cool. I wouldn't be able to benefit from this anyway because the newest Pi I have is the original Pi Zero. But the only Pis with 64-bit chips is the Pi Zero 2, the Pi 3, and the Pi 4. So all the older ones are staying where they are. They'll still get updates and everything, just not 64-bit. So yeah, that's neat. And it's another step towards what Raspberry Pi is like kind of going for a little bit harder now, which is like making these functional computers. Like I don't know if you saw, but I think last year, maybe the year before, but last year they came out with the Raspberry Pi 400, which was like a Pi in a keyboard that you just like plugged into a monitor. That was kind of cool. Kind of like a Commodore 64, like that kind of form factor. So yeah, like they're definitely, like that's always been like one of the goals with this was like, hey, it's a cheapo computer to run like Python code on or whatever. But they're, now they can lean a little bit more into that as they get better hardware. Yeah.
I've always wanted to take the time to screw around with Raspberry Pi, but it's just a time thing. And the couple of uses I've thought of for it aren't necessarily ideal for this, but yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had like a major need for like something with a Pi in a long time. I still have my original Pi back here, but I used my original Pi so much because at that point I only had like one computer that could run like Linux stuff. So I was like, oh great, I can just use this for everything, and it plugs into all the TVs we have around the house and everything else. It was cool for that. Haven't really found a need for it recently because I don't have like a server I need to keep running or something. But yeah, they're neat.
Yeah, well, what I wanted to do with it, I won't go into too much detail, but I noticed actually something in the photography world that really needed better products than what were available. And I was thinking, hey, I could actually build, if I could find somebody to help me do the actual development of the hardware, the physical components, not the electronic stuff, but the actual like hardware.
Right.
Yeah, if I could find somebody who would work with me on that, then I could do some stuff with Raspberry Pi to drive the whole thing. But yeah, that market has since actually gotten good or better. Good might be a stretch, but since then I've just kind of been like, yeah, I'm not going to bother. And
I know what I can talk about. Hold on. Is it over? Oh, it's right here. I can talk about this thing, the Motorola.
Oh yeah, that
adapter thing. Yeah, I did get mine. You actually can't buy these now. I think the company that's making this, which is not Motorola, it's SGW Global, which is like a licensee. But I think they vastly underestimated how many people want something like this, because it went live on Amazon for pre-orders like 2 weeks ago or something, and I saw 9 to 5 Google covered it. I did a post about the Amazon pre-orders, and after like a day, they were completely sold out. Like they weren't taking orders anymore. And that post got a lot of views on XDA. So like I can only imagine how many people bought through that.
I know it did pretty well on AP too.
Yeah, there's just so much demand for this thing, and then the pre-orders went live on. I saw 9 to 5 Google covered that. Target listed it, but by the time I saw their post, they had already updated it to say it was sold out there.
Yeah.
So so you can't actually, as last time I checked, you can't actually buy one of these, which kind of sucks. But so it's just a little like Chromecast looking thing. It's got a USB cable port. Yeah, very short cable. And you just, there's no like extra software with this, which is kind of cool. It just, emulates what I guess is reporting from a car with wireless auto. Like you plug it in, Bluetooth device shows up, you just pair it from the Bluetooth settings, and then Google's Android Auto services kick in. And I tried it on a couple different phones. I only have one car to test with, so I can't test it with different cars, but it worked fine. Very rarely I see like a little bit of like video compression on the display, like whenever there's Wi-Fi interference or something, but like I can't tell a difference. Besides that, like latency is good, the audio seems the same.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing as AA wireless, which I got to test, and I mean Motorola's, it looks like their dongle is nicer, at least nicer aesthetically.
That sentence is so cursed, Cody.
What?
Their dongle looks nicer.
Yeah, but their dangling appendage looks nicer.
Right. Yeah.
But
I do have issues with this dangling appendage though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't like. So first of all, this cord is like flat, which means if you need to like bend it, it kind of doesn't really fold right. Also, this connector part isn't removable, which is really annoys me, because like what happens if this cord frays or something? Like you're just shit out of luck. You got to go spend $90 again.
Yeah. $90? I didn't realize it was actually that expensive.
It is so expensive, Cody. I bet this thing costs like 7 cents for them to manufacture. The profit margins on this, Cody, they've got to be incredible.
Well, yes, I agree on that. I'm thinking that between patents and everything else, there's probably about a $4 manufacturing cost.
Yeah, it's nothing. But yeah, it really kills me there's not a way to swap in your own cable, because like also this, I was trying to find like a good position for this in my car, because I have like a tray below the USB port that this plugs into, and then like a tray above, and I'm gonna have to like shove it in somewhere. But yeah, I did test like some USB extension cables, and they work fine with this. So if it's in like a weird spot in your car, you could potentially just get like a really long Type A extension cable and like run it somewhere out of sight. But yeah, so I mean, besides that, it's fine. Again, it's really expensive. Um, I very sincerely hope that other companies are looking at how quickly this is selling out and will jump on. Um,
Actually, as I
I
look really quickly, as I look at AA Wireless, as it turns out, that is $85. So,
yeah,
yeah, I
but
guess
like
this is pretty
yeah,
much the average price range.
yeah, but that's a much smaller scale manufacturing though.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the price,
They
yeah,
can't keep those in stock either.
yeah, like this, the company that's making this has been making like wired phones for 20 years. Like they it doesn't need to be this much.
No.
But yeah, like I mean, it works. You know, I like not having to take my phone out of my pocket whenever I get in my car. That's kind of cool. Um, you know, your car still has to have Android Auto for this to work. It won't magically add auto. Your phone has to support wired auto, which is on every Android 11 phone and newer. And also, if you have a Google or Samsung phone, they implemented it in Android 10. So most people are probably fine there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I checked the Android distribution numbers that Google updates once every full moon or whenever they feel like it now.
I was gonna
And
say I don't think it's once every full moon. That's way
no,
too frequent.
more like once every Halley's Comet pass
Yeah.
towards Earth. Um, but yeah, like I checked that, and it's so like you know the numbers of like which OEMs put it in 10 makes it fuzzy, but it's like somewhere between like 30% of all Android devices, and that chart counts like tablets and stuff too, like stuff you're not taking into your car.
Mm-hmm.
So most people are probably fine. Austin said, "I'm just not a fan of Android Auto wireless. I still prefer to plug my phone in." Yeah, yeah, there are definitely cases where I'm gonna keep the cable in the car. Also because like this thing is a pain to switch devices on.
Yep.
I was trying this last night because I realized at the last minute I was like, oh wait, I've only tried one phone with this. I should probably try other phones. So I grabbed a pile of phones as you do, and I sat in my car for a while and was switching between them. And the repairing process is bad.
It's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, so like on this one specifically, there's a button on the side that you use to like start the pairing. So like you have to hold it down, and then you go in your phone's Bluetooth and you pick it. And in my case, sometimes it takes like 2 or 3 tries. I don't know what it's doing, but it's Bluetooth, so that's to be expected.
Mm-hmm.
And then even when it's like connected, my car's auto display doesn't like go off, like it doesn't like reset. So I have to like unplug the dongle and then plug it back in for it to like reset itself and connect to the phone I just paired it to. So yeah, I'm sure this sounds terrible for like anyone who shares their car. I'm the only one using my car, so I'm fine. But like, I think if I was, a family of 5, I'd probably just stick with the cable.
Yeah. No, and I agree. It is bad. They could have done so much better with it, but it's
the only option at this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Carson said NFC pairing would have been nice. Yeah,
Yep,
a lot of things would have
agreed.
been nice. I was writing this like I would have liked removable cable. Let me pick my own cable, please. Or if this cable breaks, let me replace it. Some better way of hiding this. I don't. It's kind of annoying to deal with. I said in my review, like I really hope Google can make one of these for cheaper. I know they can. They just are choosing not to right now. Or they could even go a step further, like if they wanted to just like do the equivalent of like the Google TV Chromecast with this, make one of these with Android Automotive in it.
Yeah.
That pipes the display to auto. That'd be cool. I'd buy that. That'd be cool.
Awesome.
And then you wouldn't have to worry about like the repairing nonsense because it's all self-contained.
Yeah. No. I agree. And Austin said his car's second screen doesn't display Android Auto information over wireless, only when you've got a cable or a direct cable attachment. And yeah, that's like you pile up so many little things that don't work with Android Auto wireless, and like this much slower connection time. I know that's a bigger issue for some people than others, but I don't know. I agree completely with what Austin said. I don't like wireless as much. I've had AA wireless technically sitting in my car for ages. I've got one of their like component kits, and I haven't used it in over a year. Like it was kind of
because you haven't left your house in a year.
there is that, yeah. But it was convenient. I give it that, but at the same time, like half the time I want my phone charging anyway. And by the time it connects and everything boots up and it is functioning, honestly, like if I'm doing a short trip where I would have felt like I don't want to plug my phone in, well, by the time it's booted up and connected and doing something, I may already be... It's an exaggeration to say I may already be halfway to a place, but I probably don't care that much. I probably don't care that Android Auto isn't functioning right away. But if it's a longer trip, then I start to care. But that's also the scenario where I don't want it to be wireless. I want to plug it in.
Yeah.
So,
actually, that's a question I meant to ask. How long did AA wireless usually take for you to like boot up?
It's been a really long time since I recorded the numbers. I believe, and this is real iffy, but I believe that when I figured it out, I think I found that it was taking somewhere around 10 seconds from when power came on to when it technically was booted up and could start sending start up the Wi-Fi radio.
Yeah.
And
okay.
And then maybe it was a little longer, maybe it was a little shorter, but it was enough that you could feel that there was a delay there. And then from getting to that stage, like the connection process and everything that has to happen with Android Auto, like starting up its own services, the full run, I think it was really close to about 20 seconds before you actually had stuff kind of going.
Yeah, that's probably around where this is too. Like, I think the most I noticed was like 20 seconds. But also like Austin pointed out, like I have a Hyundai Kona, and the entertainment system itself takes like a couple seconds, and then past that, like whenever I have my if I had not already had my phone plugged in, like it didn't already have that connection ready, it usually takes about like 10 seconds for it to find my phone.
Yeah.
And give me the little auto button. So this really doesn't like this isn't like any faster or slower than a wired connection for me.
Okay, well, for me it was definitely slower. Like not so much as to be bad, but it was appreciably slower. Like you could identify and tell, you could feel that it took more time. The counter to that is, and I remember saying this a few times, the amount of time that it would take for you to pull your phone out of your pocket, assuming you didn't just have it in hand, and for you to physically pick up the cable and plug it into your phone and find a place to set your phone down in the car where it could be attached to this, where it could be physically attached to the car. Like by the time you do those steps, that is pretty close to how much longer it took to connect.
Right.
So I think in that sense, you're not losing anything. But I still want my phone plugged in most of the time.
Yeah, it's good to have both options. Like I'll keep this in my car. Like I was using like again, it's basically the same as wired auto for me. But like you said, there's still a difference for like sometimes you want to charge your phone. And in that case, like it just makes sense to use wired anyway. But yeah, Austin also said, I don't like how I can't use a VPN with wireless Android Auto. Verizon's going to be tracking all my movements and podcast preferences. I hope those podcast preferences include Tech Tales, Austin. So I'm going to say.
And possibly even listening to Neil Young. We're not going there. We're not.
Okay.
I just had to throw in that joke. But yeah, I like the idea. I remember being more enthusiastic about Android Auto wireless a few years ago, but between these issues and one of them, I brought it up a few times on this show, and I forget who deserves the original credit for this, but somebody does. A listener either now or back then brought up that him and his either wife or girlfriend, I don't remember which, they would share the same car, and anytime they hopped in, like, the car would try to connect to the same phones, so, or the same one phone, and so one of them would have to turn off like either, I guess they'd have
like
to turn off their Wi-Fi in order to prevent that phone from getting picked up. And so, you know, like whoever's driving, whoever wants to use their phone with the car, like that sort of sucks. That breaks the whole thing if two people share the same car.
Yeah, this is also the same thing with like earbuds, where like I'll pick up the earbuds, I just have no idea what it's connected to. Like I have to go through it all again.
No,
but like with
real.
the wire, like you know where it goes. It's a wire. You just follow the wire.
Because no joke, this is first world weird problem right here. But when I walk around, for real, 4 phones. I walk around my house with 4 phones at pretty much all times. And I gotta say, when I'm reviewing earbuds or something like that, I'm swapping between at least 3 of these phones and my laptop all the time, constantly reconnecting. And holy crap, I like every time I do, I swear like whenever I turn on the earbuds and try to use them, I have the automatic like, okay, which device is this connected to? And I sit there, double check, wait. All right, they paired with something. Now which screen? Check each screen. Hey, here's the device. It is dumb. It feels dumb.
Yeah. So that's that adapter. Again, it's $90 when you can actually buy it. You can't really buy it right now. If you want Android Auto wireless, like I wanted Android Auto wireless, it does do that. And I like that it seems to emulate whatever protocol Google has like perfectly. Like there's no extra apps or weird setup things. It's just the only jankiness is Google's jankiness, basically.
Yeah.
So that's nice. I'm not. I got what I paid for technically. I get like I really want like Anchor to make one of these, or Google, or not Belkin. It's gonna be more expensive if Belkin makes it.
Oh god.
It's gonna be like $300, and it's gonna be like solid metal for no reason. And it's gonna have an iPod dock too.
Yes. Man, I have not actually seen a Belkin product in so long.
Yeah, I think Anchor took so much of their market share. All they have left is catering to weird Apple people.
That must be it, because I honestly, I almost kind of forgot they existed.
So I have a review going up for that, I think Saturday, but it's been written, and that's That's my take. But you should go read it still, because I tried really hard on the featured image. So whenever that goes live, you can see that. But yeah, fun fact: taking photos of a car interior is my hell. I can't get all the dust out. There's just too much dust.
Not that anybody cares, but I have really come to terms with the fact that I kind of hate taking photos of earbuds.
Oh yeah, that's the same. Like you got to do like if you take them out of the if you take all the pictures like as soon as you get them, sure. But like I always forget to do that. So later it's like, okay, time to use the content aware fill in Lightroom to like zap all like tiny specks of earwax and dust off of these.
Okay, I keep my ears pretty clean, so that's usually not an issue. Plus, I make a big point of taking, well, if I don't get pictures of them straight out of the box, one of the things that I'll do is I'll just use whatever alternate tips they include. I'll swap those in for the photos, which technically I've never actually had to do, but I've been aware of the fact that I could do that.
That's a good tip.
You never thought of this before, huh?
No.
Whoops. Okay, but my reason for hating this actually has everything to do with the fact that they're just so goddamn boring.
They're boring. They're always black and like glossy, which are like the worst possible combinations. They're small, so you gotta like takes extra work to focus on them.
Yeah.
It's like, oh great, make my life harder, please.
Yeah. So my review of the Klipsch T5 II ANC True Wireless earbuds. Yes, that's the entire product name. My review of that just went up today, and I mean, I'm okay with the hero image. I'll paste the link into YouTube chat.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with the hero image. It's not great, but it came out all right. But yeah, so many of the photos I had to take were just like, and they feel so generic. They are boring. There's not a lot to them. There's only so much you can really show with really simple earbuds. The one thing I did have to highlight though, and I'm sharing this right now in stream, the case scratches super easily. I don't know how obvious it is in this photo that I've got on stream right now, but there's a gash going across the K and L of the Klipsch name, and
yes,
like that is honestly, it is not as visible in the photo as it is in real life. In real life, like I should, while editing, I feel bad that I didn't go over and make this more prominent because it's really visible. But yeah, aside from that, like they're just boring buds. There's only so many things you can do with them to place them in different positions. Though that being said, I am kind of really happy with the video that I posted. Calling it a video is unfair because it's actually just a sound recording of the terrible call quality. But the photo I took with that is 2 earbuds sitting on red leather, which honestly looks more orange after my edits, but hey, whatever.
Yeah, I need to get more fun backgrounds, and also just whatever. Yeah. Austin said, "Bring back the red bench." I know. I don't. I don't. My mom and the rest of my family did move, but they still have the red bench. So
nice.
if I ever go down there while I'm in the middle of a non-time sensitive review, maybe I'll take a red bench photo for old time's sake. We'll see.
You could just steal the red bench.
That will not fit in my car. It would have to go on the top. And then someone will get hit by a red bench at 80 miles per hour on I-85 later.
That could be a problem, yeah.
that would probably kill someone. But yeah. Oh, I can talk about one more thing, and then I probably need to leave so I can take Daisy out for a walk. She didn't hear me. Okay. I realized I said it like, oh no, that's the word.
I know, it's like saying the word food around my cats. They know the word food, and man, the moment you say it, they're up and moving.
Yeah, so I finished my review of the Galaxy S21 Fan Edition, which I know I already talked. I think I talked on here about that, like when I got it, but I hadn't used it for a long time. Now I have used it for a long time, and this is a very bizarre phone. It makes almost no sense. So you know the S20 FE was pretty cool because we don't get a lot of like cheap flagships in the US really, especially after OnePlus stopped doing it and they kind of just made their phones the prices that everyone else makes their phones. So you know when the S20 FE came out and it was like 550 a lot of the time, usually floated around 600, but sometimes 550, and it was just like a full flagship phone. It was just plastic instead of glass. That was a good deal. That was pretty good. You know, and it had the same 3 years of updates and all that stuff. So that was a cool phone. This is not a cool phone. This is again the S20 FE was almost identical to the S20 that it is based on, and it's the same thing here. This is the S21 FE. Like I have my S21 and my S21 FE. These are almost the same phone. You know, it's just the FE's a little bit bigger, and they made the telephoto camera worse. It's got like a lower resolution sensor to save costs, and it's a little bit more plasticky, but still feels fine.
Ooh, the fingerprints. I just saw that.
Oh yeah, those fingerprints, man. But yeah, I mean, like this is almost the same phone, except it costs almost the same price the S21 did when it came out, and that was a year ago. I know it's been I know it's hard to get a grasp on the passage of time recently, but this is almost identical to the phone that came out 12 months ago, and it's almost the same price, which is not really how tech works. You know, usually these things, they get cheaper or they get better, and this is neither. This is just the same, basically. Like the only I've seen a couple of people, they like the design a little bit better, like the camera module doesn't stick out as much, and that's an improvement. I don't look at the back of my phone that much. The screen's on the front. I don't know what all these people looking at the back of their phone constantly are doing, unless you're like Cody and you have 17 phones surrounding you and some of them might be flipped on their back.
Okay, actually I do have a bit of a thought on this. In much the same way as people, not you, choose clothes for other people to see, I think the back of the phone, when you consider how do people usually see you holding a phone, you probably have the phone up like this as you're staring at the screen and they're staring at the back of the phone. I think legitimately some people care about the look of the back of the phone for that reason.
Okay, I know that is a factor, or else there would not be iPhone cases that have like a cutout for the Apple logo. So I know that is a thing,
Yes.
but those people are weird.
Yeah,
and I will not.
Yeah, legit.
I will not pay attention to that. And also, these phones go in cases a lot of the time.
They should.
Yeah, they should, especially with how gross that back casing gets. My goodness. Sure, I'm glad Samsung didn't send us the white one. That would have been really gross. I honestly like that green one. I do like the colors with this one. But anyway, yes, this is just the same. It's the same phone, and it costs almost the same amount of money. I saw some people try to frame this as like a good deal because this is like $100 less than the S21 was at launch, but like only $100, and it's been 12 months. No. And also, like, I was trying to figure out, like, one of the, like the article I wrote before this, because a lot of people were searching for, or would be searching for it, was a comparison between this and the S21. And so I was trying to write the conclusion. I was like, okay, like which one should you buy? Or if you already have one, should you upgrade? And the question of like which one should you buy is completely irrelevant now because Samsung stopped making the S21s.
Yeah.
So you can't cross shop these. This is the only option now. So effectively, Samsung has replaced the phone that was going on sale for like $600 all the time with this new phone that's almost the same, but now costs $700 retail. Which is not that's not a good deal. And also like this doesn't affect me, but like one of the other reasons the S20 FE was such a hit was because that was like the first time in a really long time, maybe forever, I'm not sure, where Samsung sold the Snapdragon version basically everywhere. So all the people like India and Europe and all these other places that were usually getting just the Exynos phones and really wanted a Snapdragon Samsung phone. I don't know how drastic the difference is at this point, but there's a lot of people who want the Snapdragon specifically. And with the S20 FE, not only was it a good deal, but they could finally get the chipset that they wanted. So it was really popular international also for that reason. But this is going back to the same distribution as the normal phones. So if you're in a place that usually gets Snapdragon Samsung phones, this is Snapdragon. If you're usually in a place that gets Exynos phones, this is Exynos. So that's another reason why it's not super exciting or fantastic deal. I did see 2 days after this was published, this phone dropped to $100 off on Amazon. So it seems like this is a repeat of the last time where like the actual retail price, it wasn't at that very much, which I hope so, because this is a terrible deal. No one should buy this for $700.
No, I can agree with that. Yeah.
And again, like I say, it's weird because like this is like a good phone. Like I was using this, I didn't really have any complaints. Probably because it's identical to the phone I've been using for a year that I knew I'd like before I bought it, and I've been using it for a year, so I'm fine with it. But like it's a fine phone. It's got all the Snapdragon 888. Goodness, is still fast. Screen's big. They downgraded the RAM also. This has
Wait. They lowered the RAM, so it's more expensive than another phone that they just discontinued, and it's actually definitely inferior.
Well, mostly inferior, yes. Yeah, but like that was one of the things I found it when I was checking specs. I was like, what? What? So the Samsung's selling two of these. There's a 128 gig and a 256 gig. The base 128, which is $700, $700. That has 6 gigs of RAM. Meanwhile, the S21 from last year and the S20 FE both had 8. So this is a downgrade from like the last FE from 2019 now, and the S21 with the RAM. It goes up to 8 if you get the 256 gig, but it's very silly. And again, like the S20 FE was nice because when it came out, the Snapdragon chip that year was still fine. Like it wasn't going to be replaced for another couple months. But this is coming out right as phones with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 are going to show up. Mm-hmm. The Samsung is announcing the S22 series next week, and that's when we'll get phones probably with that chip. I don't know if I would assume that's what they're going to have. But yeah, so like I don't get it. It's a very weird phone. Just completely wrong pricing on this. It should really be like, I know it's on sale right now for what was it? Let me quickly check. Yeah, right now it's on sale for $600. Which is closer to where it should be, but like, even then, like the S21 dropped to this, I think at least a couple times, and this is worth like the only like definitive ways this is better is the screen is slightly larger. I like smaller screens. That's not a win for me, but most people disagree with that. And also because this comes out now and it comes with Android 12, and Samsung guarantees 3 major Android updates for all its phones, this will get one more update than the S21. But like, still,
Yeah.
It's just silly. This, this. I don't know if this is true. Reportedly, this was delayed multiple times. Like, I don't know if they didn't have enough chips to make it, or Samsung just was busy with other things. But like, we had renders of this phone that looked almost identical to this in like April of last year. So this phone was supposed to come out a long time ago, and I think I would have been kinder to it if it showed up in like October, like the last FE did, like just right in that like pixel cycle where it's like, okay, it's not that bad that this has like the old chip in it, because we still have a couple months left until the new one comes out. But now it's like, okay, cool, this comes out right now, like in January, right before all the new hardware shows up, and it's more expensive than what it would. I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's a miss, and it's so weird because I don't want to give Samsung credit because they still fuck up a lot of stuff, but they have generally been improving prices on their phones in the US, like the A52 and like the A50 series. Like that's been like the sweet spot of budget phones in the US for a while, I think, ignoring like the Pixel A series. Like those are really the only two I would tell someone to buy, besides like an iPhone SE, but I'm just talking about Android. Like most of their phones are priced pretty good because again, they have the scale to do this efficiently, but this is just weird. This should have been cheaper, or they should have canned it. It doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. Or at a bare minimum, it needed to come out earlier.
Yeah.
And even then, honestly, it feels bad that they cut the RAM. I mean, not the worst case scenario, but it just feels like another little.
Yeah, like I can't tell a difference, but like it is like, come on, right? Like not only did the S21 have more, and it was about the same price, but also the FE from last time had more.
Yeah.
And also the FE from last time had a micro SD card slot, and this does not, because Samsung got rid of that on the S21 series, which I didn't care about at the time, but now that I'm dumping more offline music onto my phone, I do care about now. So that's fun.
Yeah. I don't get it right now. I'm looking at all the products that are coming out in various capacities, and I keep having this feeling of, why is anyone going to buy this?
Yeah.
Because a lot of it is in some way, shape, or form either overpriced or just not good, and it's weirdly making me feel bad about electronics right now.
Yeah, like I'm trying not to say anything I'm not supposed to say, but we don't know what the final pricing on the S22 phones will be. Maybe Samsung is basically making this like the cheap S phone this year. I don't know. But if they're doing that, that's still kind of lame because it has the old chip in it. But yeah, like the S20 FE had so many reasons, so many things going for it. It was a good, like, first of all, it captured a lot of people that were like waiting for a good deal on the S20, and here comes this cheaper phone. So it got those people. It got the people who wanted a Snapdragon phone outside of America, It was just, good value hardware. It was getting 3 years of Android updates, which this was before like Google ramped up how many updates it was giving, and no one else was trying, which is still kind of true. But anyway, like there was a lot going for that phone. There's nothing going for this. This is like just the more I talk about it, the more I'm just baffled. I don't get this phone. Like again, and it's also baffling because like usually when I complain about something, it's because it's a bad device. But like it's a fine phone, but at the same time, no one should buy this. Unless you just get like the mother of all trade-in deals or something.
I mean, I want to agree no one should buy it, but the thing is, I want to agree with that from the position of being like, you could obviously, or everyone deserves to have a better option than what this is. But that being said, if you're in a carrier store and you're looking through your options, this is one of the very obvious options in a particular price point. And, this just might be the thing that you kind of, I don't want to say have to get, but it might just be the thing you're going to get. So,
yeah, I mean, like,
and
it's, I said, like, it's fine.
Yeah,
like,
it's
I didn't
not a
have
bad
any
phone.
issues.
It's just, everyone
the price is wrong.
deserves better.
Yeah. It's, so again, like, if this goes on crazy sales, sure. But it's just very, very weird. Although now my S21 has a stunt double, so there's that. Almost the same. But hi Curvy, you coming right in as I am about to leave.
Yeah, Corbin does this. The funny thing is, we had other topics that we were going to hit, and he's determined to leave early, so
early, an hour and a half in.
Yeah. Well, you wanted to get into those other topics, and I figured we were gonna sit on like the Bungie thing for a bit, and other stuff.
If today was less crazy, maybe, but I have a headache and I need to like go take my dog on a walk without my phone on me, just escape for a little bit. But yeah. I was quickly looking at the comments. Carson said Pixel 6 is better than S21 FE. Yeah, probably.
Yep.
It's absolutely a better deal,
though,
for sure.
Though the fair call out is the Pixel 6 has turned out to be kind of a buggy mess. Like, I don't think it's buggy so much that it's like bad, but you really do have to have patience with pixels at this moment, or in order to be a Pixel user.
Yeah, the more I think about it, the more I wonder if Google might have been better off doing like when I know car companies do this, but recently a lot of smartphone companies have done this too, where they have a cool idea and they make like a concept phone, and they make like 100 of those, and that's it. If that, sometimes there's just one that they show at like CES and then they're done. I feel like Google should have done that with the Tensor phone, like with their first Tensor phone. Like just have here's the Pixel X. If you want the cool thing, here you go. Like they kind of did this with the what was it called? Their AR stuff. I forget. That also started with Tango. Like they had like Tango test devices that they like didn't tell normal people to buy, but you go buy them if you want to try that thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now, of course, the flip side of that is that they probably would not have discovered a lot of the bugs people are finding unless they had as many people buying them as a normal Pixel. But I still think this, again, like all the issues coming up, a lot of them seem to be, or at least the ones that are getting the most press attention, are kind of chipset related.
There have definitely been a couple, maybe even a few,
Yeah.
but I also
I know
noticed.
there's stuff that's not related.
Yeah, the thing is, I've seen a lot of people finding these issues and immediately saying, "Oh, that must be a tensor thing," and it's like, really? I'm looking at what you're describing, and
this happens every year with pixels.
Yeah, that happens all the time. There's no reason there is good reason to think that it is not tensor because of how often it happens. And then some of the stuff that people are popping up with is like, look, I understand you don't necessarily know, but you're just assuming a lot, and just if you understand technology, you understand this particular thing could be any source. Like, it could be a software thing, it could be a chipset thing, it could literally just be a random fluke of two different pieces of hardware or software being incompatible. Like, this stuff just happens. And yeah, so the community narrative has sucked it off, as it so often does. But
yeah, and I know like to a certain extent you just kind of have to push stuff out there, and what happens, but
yeah,
this really happens every year with Pixels. Like, even when they use Snapdragon phones, like the first couple months are so buggy.
Yep.
And this year it's worse. Like,
yeah,
Google's I don't remember Google ever like pulling a security update for one of their phones.
Oh, no, they've done that.
Okay.
Yeah, they've definitely done that. Oh, jeez, I swear it was just, maybe it wasn't last year, maybe it was a year before, but they definitely did it in the not that long ago time.
Okay.
Plus, even, oh god, they pulled updates so many times, including the time that they released an update that bricked phones. Another time when they released an update that was signed for the wrong phone. There was a time that they released an update that if I remember, I think it disabled cellular services or something. Like, they've released some pretty janky, messed up updates and had to pull them. So, but security updates, that's less common.
Yeah, like, I just, the whole train of like Google rolling out that December update, and then it's like immediately reports are coming in that it's broken, and Google is just like, huh, that's weird. And then for like half a month, it's just like, huh, that's kind of weird. And then like at a certain point, they're like, okay, all right, yeah, we get it. That update was bad. We're gonna take it back. And you'll get this, some other time. We'll give you the fixes in like whatever the next month. And then that didn't come until like middle of January. It's not a good look. Yeah, Carson said it might be Android 12. Yeah, Android 12, like, it's been having issues on other phones too. I'm sure it's like a combination of 15 different factors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus,
awesome.
like, even some of the material use stuff that they shipped has notoriously caused weird issues on other phones. Like, there was, if I remember correctly, there was a sleep issue that was somehow Material U related, and like, come on, really? These should not be problems, but Android 12. I feel like Android 12 is going to turn out to be actually, like Carson said, like Lollipop. It's going to be that version where they added some stuff. It, depending on your perspective, it may be neat, but they added some things, and holy crap, it's just, you might as well just throw away the whole version, because the next version is going to be nothing but fixes.
Yeah, Austin said Qualcomm is probably doing industrial sabotage. I wouldn't go that far. I think Qualcomm is a terrible company. I don't know if they care that much.
I mean, if Qualcomm is sabotaging anyone, it's Qualcomm.
Yeah, it's yeah. They're like, oh man, we got to make better chips again. We just did this.
Yeah. Though I know you're not going to stick around for it, but I absolutely am going to talk about that Android update article that somebody wrote? Did you hear about that?
No. Was there a bad take, Cody? You know I love those.
Oh, it's funny because it is the combination of good information, but bundled with a pretty suspect take. I don't want to call it a bad take. I'm gonna say suspect.
Okay, I'm gonna get water. I'll stick around for this one.
Okay,
you've wrote me in, Cody.
Okay, that is unintentional.
I'll keep my headphones in.
Okay, so this was written, I guess, by Kuba Wojciechowski. I honestly don't know, and I'm sorry for butchering it, Kuba. But anyway, so this person, as the article is titled, "How Android Updates Work: A Peek Behind the Curtains from an Insider." This person presumably or ostensibly knows a bunch of people who have some degree of inside knowledge. I'm just gonna close that thing that has my email addresses on it. But yeah, it's basically an article describing the process of how an Android update happens, the various pieces and components that went into basically the architecture of Android. So it discusses Treble. It gets into Project Mainline for just a minute. It talks about how security patches are differentiated between basically high level and low level stuff, so on and so forth. Anyway, this whole article goes into honestly a lot of the kind of like deep dive process things, which is kind of neat. And cheers to the writer for covering this. The truth is, it's funny because the writer said it, and also I've heard other people say, wow, look at all the stuff we didn't know. And as I was reading through this, it's like, no, almost all of this stuff was actually out there in public knowledge. You just had to listen for it. But for the most part, this whole thing really gets into the details, and it's a good read. By the way, I did paste it into chat, so if anyone wants to read it, there you go. What got to me is when you get almost to the end of it. Let's see. Right about which section is it? There are a couple of little comments here and there, but it does get down to a section dedicated to Qualcomm, and it talks about their long-term support and basically heavily credits Qualcomm for the fact that they have had some devices supported for up to 6 years so far. Though that is a very specific example. Anyway, then you go a little bit further, and all of a sudden this thing takes a hard left turn and basically says Google is only making AOSP for Pixel phones, kind of implying like it serves no purpose for any other OEM or developer, and starts talking about the what is it called, Google Requirements Freeze, which is basically a policy. It's poorly explained here, but basically it's a policy that says that when a device comes out, it's got a certain sort of a lock on what it's allowed to do, what it's allowed to be. But if you want to get it recertified, it's a huge hassle. And ultimately, it basically says Qualcomm is not to blame for updates. It's actually Google. Google apparently won't certify easily updates going after 3 years. Damn it. Shut up. I gotta remember to just turn that thing off every time. But yeah, it's taking a pretty hard line, like, hey, by the way, just blame Google opinion. And I don't doubt that there's some truth in that. But it gets framed as basically Pixels are partially at fault, Google is totally at fault, and it's to make the OEMs richer. which I'm not sure why Google would supposedly do that, but if you read this thing, it's good up until this point. It gets really funky there.
Well, in the end, this is a Google product, so if something's wrong with it, I guess you can blame Google. That's not a terrible leap to make.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like I'm scrolling through this, and I will read the rest of this later because this does look interesting, and they do touch on. I scrolled right past it. Now my brain is shutting down. Oh yeah, they talk about the Fairphone, which that's been kind of an interesting saga to follow because they've been like somewhat open about like jamming their way through longer support cycles for their phones. So it's been kind of impressive.
Yeah, and this definitely talked about how the first two Fairphones had really great long-term support, and then all of a sudden the 3 and the 4 were just like, nah, we're just gonna do not the minimum, but yeah, we're only gonna do what we're obligated to do and nothing more. And
man, I liked Fairphone, and then I saw that new one, and I saw they took out the headphone jack, and I was like, come on, guys. Like, isn't this the point of you? Like, you're supposed to make my shit last longer, making me buy new earbuds when the batteries die. But anyway, so yeah, I'm scrolling through this, and it's just incredible how much over engineering has gone into this. Like, there is a very simple solution to most of this, and like the Google certifying step will not go away because you need that to make sure apps work.
Yeah.
Like one of the certification suite is to make sure that the Samsung phone and the Oppo phone and the Xiaomi phone all roughly work with all these standard APIs. They get away with a lot behind the scenes, but like generally speaking, all the apps work. But all this stuff with drivers and Project Treble and all this, like, it's just because the chipset makers won't put their damn binary blobs in the kernel. That is, like, we have to build these extra layers on top of the kernel and modularize Android into these crazy ways because the drivers are made for one kernel version. And desktop Linux doesn't have this issue because the drivers are in the kernel, unless you want to install like NVIDIA drivers. But even then, those just like work on top. And you can go without those, like I do. It's fine. You just can't play games that well. But that's what Windows for. But it's just like I know. I remember Ron at Ars Technica did a pretty good write-up about this at an event where Google was talking about how they're like trying to get closer to a mainline Linux kernel, because this would make it all easier. Like if they can just pull the latest kernel and have a done day, that would make Google's life a lot easier. But they can't do that because they need to upstream what they've done for that to happen. That's how open source development works. Like if you want to, you got to merge changes. But the Linux Foundation isn't really interested in most of what they've done because, like, I don't know if Linus Torvalds himself has like been talked about this, but I know people on the Linux Foundation have been like, we don't want a like driver model in Linux. Like we don't want, because like they when you have a driver system, then that's an extra layer that you have to maintain, and you have to make sure it never breaks, or else the drivers break. And that's part of the reason like Windows is as much of a mess as it is, because they have to maintain this extra. It's like a whole like extra platform. Yep. You have to keep maintaining, and you have to make sure that platform talks to the kernel, and it keeps talking to devices, and it's all this extra complication just because the companies don't want to upstream their changes. Like AMD contributes their drivers and stuff to the kernel. Like when you just download, when you boot up Linux on AMD system, like it uses everything they've done. Intel does this. I know like Qualcomm and MediaTek do like a little bit of this, not enough to make it bootable, but like they put some of their stuff in, like especially for their like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth hardware. But this is all just over engineering that will make all this worse.
Yeah.
Just because they don't want to put their stuff in the kernel, because then their competitors could look at that code and see how it works, and maybe, God forbid, make something better than they did.
Mm-hmm. Or cheaper.
Yeah, and it's like, and it's so frustrating because of this one little bit of like, I don't know what the right word is, but like just because of that, we have to have Google re-implementing drivers on top of Linux and splitting Android up into pieces. And just that alone wouldn't. So I know they've also partially made Project Trouble because they can't be they can't control updates. So putting everything in the kernel wouldn't really change anything there, but it would make all this a lot simpler. And that's why nowadays, usually, I know it with newer hardware, it's a little bit more of a jump, but like usually when you boot up Ubuntu on just any PC, it usually works because all the stuff is in the kernel and it's been in there since day one. And if something breaks, they can anyone can go in and fix it. But you can't do that with Android. And that's also why they can't, that's also why it takes forever for new kernel stuff to get into Android, because they don't like hold the latest changes all that often because they've diverged so far, right? It's, like if this is like an evolutionary tree, it's like if we want to borrow something from like an octopus, like there's way too many, there's a lot of divergence there that makes it difficult. But like it's so frustrating because like I know there's it's just over engineering for a problem that's easily solvable, but because we have companies wanting to be greedy and not put their drivers in, we have this issue. And then there's just the general issue of like because the drivers are made for a certain kernel, you can't move beyond that kernel. And that's always been something really weird with Android, where like your device has the kernel it came with, and then that's it. Like that doesn't really change often. I know it has in the past. Like I'm pretty sure Google's done it a couple times with their Nexus and Pixel phones. But like that caused a lot of issues for Chrome OS, because Chrome OS does the same thing. Every device or every like baseboard is on just whatever version of the Linux kernel Google tested it on and made all the drivers for, which became a problem every time they added something that needed newer kernel stuff, like all the virtualization stuff. There were like some Chromebooks that couldn't get Android apps because the VM technology they used needed a newer version of the kernel than a lot of Chromebooks had. And the same thing happened again when they added the Linux container. The Linux container needs, I forget what the name of the feature is, but it's like somewhat new. Mm-hmm. So, there goes a bunch of other Chromebooks. So it's like, it just, it causes so many of these issues where, Android is rapidly evolving. The Google API stacks on top of that are rapidly evolving. Hardware is rapidly evolving. But this one piece that's like at the core of the system is like 5 years old, probably, on your phone. And I know it's not just that, like, it's just like, because it's core, like you want something stable, like for the same reason that like when NASA launches a Mars rover, it's usually running an operating system from 10 years ago. Like they just need it to be like as stable as possible, like just nothing can go wrong. But there's also these other factors in play that make that harder. So like I'm scrolling through this and it's like I'm glad I know this now, but it's kind of horrifying.
Yeah.
It's like learning about like industrial meat production. You're like, oh no. This isn't good.
Yeah,
future generations will look on this and go, "What the fuck?" Are you?
Oh, I feel like future generations are going to look back on this and go, man, it was so much easier in those times. Because I feel like it only gets worse from here. As stupid as and as overcomplicated as it gets, I see opportunities for this to get worse.
Oh, for sure. Like 10 years from now, everything will just be a Linux kernel. Every app on your computer will have its own Linux kernel, and it's all just VMs all the way down.
Okay, now you're just describing Docker.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's why I hated Docker. I'm like, where's my network coming from? I don't know anymore. Where's the files?
Oh god, yeah, Docker's awful.
Like Artem trying to teach me how to use Docker. I'm like, where are the files? Though? Where are they? I can't find them.
I still never actually learned how to use Docker. I've had it installed on multiple computers and a NAS, but I've never actually gotten use out of it.
It sounds neat, and then you're like, oh no, there's like 5 computers layered on my computer now. I can't tell what's going on.
And they make you sign into a service.
Yeah, I've heard. Okay, yeah. So I haven't used Docker in like years. Thankfully,
Okay.
you know, I'm Docker sober for a while now. But I have heard that they're like nickel and diming developers now on it.
Oh yeah.
Like they're so yeah. I'm sure that's a problem.
It's awful. Okay, not that I want to chase you off or anything, but I assume it's probably close to dark, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that ship sailed.
Oh, has it? Okay, are you just sticking around, or?
No, I mean I'm still gonna walk my dog. I just have to bring the flashlight now.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, since that ship sailed, I'll bring up one more thing, and then I'm leaving for sure. And nothing you say can make me stick around. I'm drawing a line right here. Let me find.
You've erased the line like 6 times.
I know. I'm terrible negotiator. Can you imagine being like a sales job? Be like, all right, Corbin, you need to sell 10 boxes of paper, and I'd be like, all right, I got 3 pieces for you.
The weird thing is, I'm actually good at sales. The only thing is, I hate when I worked at Dell, like I could sell computers left and right. But holy crap, did I hate selling like the extended warranties and crap like that.
Yeah.
That was my that. That's why I quit. Well, I quit for multiple reasons, but that's why I was happy to quit.
Yeah, I'm sure I talked about this before, but my first job was it was sales at Office Depot, which is just I was walking around the store, and like if someone needed help or needed to find something, like I'd go find it. And after like a couple months, they started training me to fix computers. So I was like, okay, cool. You know, going from first job that's not that fun to this, sure, I'll fix a computer. That's fun. And the fixing the computer part was kind of fun because I got to see how horrible some Windows systems get. And then it's the same thing where like I get this way too. I don't know if you are, but like when you're like power washing something that's really dirty and you're like, oh yeah, it's gonna look so great when it's done. Like it's the same feeling of like, look at all this malware going away.
Oh but, no!
Yeah, so I was like, good.
I don't know, because man, the power washing thing I get, but when it came to people's computers, the worse they were, the faster that I would just sit there and say, okay, listen,
there's an ocean over here. Toss it.
No, for real, like we're just wiping this thing. I'm not gonna sit here and help you get rid of all the crap off of it. We're wiping it, or I can leave right now. I'm happy either way, but there's no way in hell I'm just gonna sit here and dismantle all the malware on your computer. Like that was never happening.
Yeah, and so like they were training me for that, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure, this is fine. But then I realized that the tech people there, their salary was mostly from what they sold on top of the repairs.
Yeah.
So like once you fix your computer, or if you, it was the same people like doing the repairs and selling the computers. So like, you know, when no one was in the store to sell a computer to, they go back and keep working on whatever they were doing before. But you know, it was all the you know, there was like a little bit of a commission, but on top of that, it was like, do you want Microsoft Office? Do you want McAfee antivirus? Like all this shit. I hate that. That's really slimy. So I did not stick around, partially because I moved, and that became an hour drive, and I'm like, I'm not doing this. Even though they called me, they're like, hey, do you want to? Because like around this time, their two main tech people were leaving, or I think there might have been three. Like they were like going to different stores or somewhere else. They were like, hey, we need someone. I was like, think about it. And that was like 4 months into Android Police. I was like, I'm good.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. But yeah, so I've done that life briefly. I don't care to repeat that. But I don't remember how I got on this, but on a completely different topic, Microsoft is testing kind of a cool thing. So I'll put this in Discord. So I didn't know this, but apparently Microsoft has like Asana, like just their own Asana. I had no idea this was a thing. Like I knew they had Microsoft To Do because they kind of like cram it on you a lot if you use like Office stuff.
I was gonna say I've never seen it, but okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so they just have like straight up Asana apparently in Office 365, and now they're starting to let normal people use it. And this looks better than Asana. So, but I don't know. Microsoft can't make web apps, so I'd have to try this. I haven't tried this yet, but it looks pretty cool. Like it's the same sort of like style where every item has like customizable fields, and then you can sort it and stuff. And yeah, this seems like overkill. I've been jumping between stuff like this for Tech Tales because that's slightly too complex for just like a normal to-do list.
Right.
So I might try this out once it's like done. Not right now because they haven't plugged in this personal version to the mobile apps yet, so it's only a web app. So I'm not going to switch to this, but yeah, like it looks pretty clean. Like they've got a calendar view. You know, it's all the same collaborative stuff, so you can have people jumping in and doing stuff. But yeah, I just think this is neat. I've kind of been using this. What I've been using for Tech Tales, which is like not really what it's intended for, but I've been using like GitHub issues for Tech Tales because it like kind of has a project view like this. And more importantly, I can code my own GitHub actions for stuff. So like for Tech Tales, what I have is I have an action where when I paste in the final SoundCloud link, like when the episode is scheduled or whatever, and I paste that link in, GitHub for me, after I spend hours coding this, but automatically it will take that link, download it, make a video version, and then email that video version to me so I could go dump it on YouTube. And that works like no matter what computer I'm on. You know, I don't need to set up my, you know, YouTube DL and FFmpeg again on whatever I'm using. So that's cool. But yeah, this seems neat. Again, I'd like to try this out when it's done, but now they're just kind of testing it. Especially because maybe this will make give a little bit of a kick to Asana, because this is usually like doomsday for any other company that makes something like this. When like Microsoft or Google makes a thing of your product, like then you're like, oh crap, we got to try now.
Well, I think most of them already try, but at that stage they realize it's either compete with a giant that's going to steamroll us, or find a new market to buy our way into. which some part of me looks at Asana and I kind of feel like that's what they're going to end up doing.
I try using Asana myself, like for tech tales, for like 1 hour, and I was like, this is horrible. Like, it's the account switching is bad. That's part of it, but also just like it's not intuitive whatsoever. And also it keeps doing that bullshit thing that I have to override, where it wants to like do a popover over what I'm hovering my mouse over, and I'm like, why? My computer already does this when you hover over a link and it gives you, what the link is.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Asana.
No, I honestly, so for anyone who doesn't know this, and there's no real reason anyone should, Android Police, as part of the Valnet takeover, has switched to Asana. XDA has been on Asana for a long time. And for anyone that doesn't know, Asana is basically a kind of a task project management tool. Just really for kind of maintaining progress and state on individual assignments. I gotta say, and for as much as everyone kept saying, oh, you're gonna love being on Asana, it's so much better than what we were using, which was Basecamp and so on and so forth. I'm sorry, I'm still not seeing it. Like, I'm not saying it's not better, or sorry, I don't think it's worse. I just don't think it's better. I feel like Asana has been equal levels of bad, just in different ways.
I'm trying to think of a good comparison. It's kind of like, it's kind of like the difference between, before this I was using Basecamp at Android Police, and comparing those two, it's like an electric car versus a gas car, where like I can do more with Asana the gas car, but I have to worry about 15 more things, and I hate using it.
Yeah.
Whereas Basecamp is just like, here's a list, and you can put comments on it. That's it. Hope you like it. That's all you're getting. Also, if you put too many things in, I will cry. That's
oh yeah.
Carson said, what about Trello? Yeah, it's kind of, Trello more leans into like, I think it's called like a katana board or something like that.
Yeah. Where
instead of just, like all these have modes that do that, but I think, does Trello have a list mode? I haven't used Trello much, but yeah, it's kind of the same as that, where like you have items that you can move around and add fields to and whatnot.
By the way, you said katana board. I think it's Kanban, I think is the term.
Kanban. That sounds right. Yeah.
Or something like that. We went through a training session on Asana, which, by the way, it still kills me that everyone calls it Asana when I know it's technically supposed to be Asana, but whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that's not important, but it's just one of those things. I hear it and it's like, all right. I'm sure everyone at the company probably even says it that way, and it's still, it's like, I know what it's supposed to be. Anyway, is it Kanban? Yeah, Kanban board. Okay. So that's a thing. Okay, now I see. That during our training, that's got said like a dozen times, and all I'm thinking is, it's cute that you want to assume all of us know what a Kanban board is, but I've never heard that term. You weirdos.
Yeah. I keep my items on a piece of sticky note under my monitor, and sometimes it falls off.
Well, in point of fact,
put it back on.
If you're watching the stream, you'll see what a Kanban board is, which is in fact a board of sticky notes. Not kidding.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is. So evidently, yeah,
I would love to know who keeps the card views on, because I hate those. I don't like the cards. Maybe if you have like I've seen a lot of people have where they have a secondary monitor and they turned it like vertical, and you can have a bunch of cards going up and down. But I hate it on everything.
I card view. I'm just curious if that's what we're in or if we're using something else, because
when you go to Asana and make sure to not stream this.
I'm yeah, believe me, I'm careful about that.
Yeah, when you're at the top, there's like that top bar that says overview, list, and board. I'm on list, but there's also board.
Okay, yeah, I leave it on board because we were actually instructed to. I'm not kidding.
It works the same.
Well, okay, here's the thing. It depends on which project we're in, to some extent. Not that anybody cares about this, but our editorial and pitches are in list view, and all the others, our news, embargoed, and review stuff is in board view. And yeah, we were actually literally instructed to do this. Part of it being, I guess dragging stuff is a little bit easier in board view because it's all in columns. So if you move stuff between columns a lot, that makes more sense. But
okay. No, I like my list.
Yeah, honestly, I don't like this at all, though.
When I switch it to board, when I go from list to board, I go from having like 15 things on my screen to like 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and all this is bad. So I will try Microsoft's thing when it comes out. Because I don't know. Maybe theirs is okay. And also, right now, at least for the testing, they're not like charging for this. And basically, every single one of these other things charges you if you want to do like anything remotely productive with it for an extended period of time. So, we'll see.
Yeah, I've thought about trying out Trello just because. But it's the only one I'm aware of that is out and that I haven't tried, and that there are a lot of these.
Trello, but... yeah. Well, now there are. There's this board system is very popular. Like,
the board system's popular, but I don't think most of them are. I believe most of the ones that exist out there are really more task, like they're designed for a specific thing, whereas clearly Asana and Trello have been intended to be like for anyone, for everyone.
Yeah, you make it what you want, which is part of the problem.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah. So hopefully that's good. My Tech Tales organization is still kind of a mess. I need to go back and like add stuff and all that fun stuff. But yeah, speaking of Tech Tales, I am trying to find cool stuff to talk about. That also won't take forever. It turns out that's difficult for me. Like I was trying to do. I'm doing one episode soon about an emulator, and I was like, well, I need to also talk about this other emulator that was like kind of the same thing, and I was like, oh great, this is long now. So yeah. Although I have one outline like 90% done, but I'm trying to see if there's like something more I can put into it, because right now there's not a whole lot of story. It's just kind of like this happened, and that's it.
Okay, I don't know why, but I just got the weirdest idea that I think would actually make for a hilarious episode, assuming you can find any details on it. You should, and this could even be like a quick hit episode. You might be able to knock this out in like a 15-minute episode. The backstory for the Tamagotchi.
Maybe I did. You know, I almost did something like that. I was looking into all of the different, like portable Pokemon things, like all those, like like they did this like 5 times where a game would come out and they'd have like a little like Tamagotchi like thing where you transfer the Pokemon to it and walk with it.
Yeah.
And it levels up. Because like I think that was kind of cool, and it was like one of the first examples of like that like digital to physical stuff. But there, I was trying to find stuff. There really wasn't anything beyond just like it came out. I couldn't. There might be more. Maybe I didn't try hard enough, but yeah.
I feel like there's got to be a interesting but probably not very long backstory for how Tamagotchi happened and probably like the really rapid rise and the incredibly rapid fall. At least I assume rapid fall.
Yeah. I've got, I'm going through my list. I have a couple things in here that would be relatively short but still interesting. Like I'm not going to do any of these scenes, so it's okay if I spoil. But like I've got the Xbox Live shutdown, which was that time when like people kept their consoles running to stay connected so they wouldn't get booted off after the server shut down. That was kind of fun.
Oh yeah.
I've got the Soulja Boy consoles. Got to talk about those. I don't know anything about those except they came out, but I gotta figure that out. I've got the GTA Hot Coffee mod in here. That was fun for like 15 minutes. A couple of things on here. I do want to do an episode at some point that's just like we listen to all the Mac startup chimes and like rate them. I think that'd just be fun.
Oh my god. Okay, John.
Like, what do we think about this chime? What's the history of this chime? Be great.
Oh man. I know that it's impossible, but it'd be so great to get actually John Siracusa to come on during that.
Yeah, I'm still working up the courage to ask people to come on these things. There's a couple people maybe I could rep in at some point. Like I've talked with Michael Fisher like twice, so I could theoretically send him a DM, but I think I know what the answer would be at this point. Yeah, I've got a couple of things like that. I want to do. It isn't a long one, but I wanted to do one about the iPod ads. Like all those like the like monochrome ones. Yeah,
the monochrome.
Yeah. Because I was like I kind of want to do those. I like those. How'd those happen? And I started researching this, and I found this one article from this like pop history website where this person wrote exactly what I was looking for. So I was like, whenever I do this is just going to be like I'll have like 3 sources, and this is the main one. I love it when that happens.
That does make life easier.
Yeah. But yeah, I added a couple other ones recently. I need to do more space ones. Space stuff is cool. Have not ventured into space things yet.
Well, if you want, I can get in touch with my buddy that worked on oh damn it, I'm totally blanking on the name, but
you said the James Webb.
Yeah, the James Webb telescope that just went up.
Speaking of which, I'm so glad that went up. I'm so glad there were no problems with that. That was like one ray of sunshine in the past couple months.
Yeah, no, that was like the big happy story from
Austin said Google Glass. I'll get to that. There's a couple where I'm like everyone has done this, and I'm trying not to immediately go for those.
Yeah. That being said, you probably I don't know. You should probably hit the Google Glass at some point, just because.
Yeah.
I I mean, I'm available and I have one still.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know
Like
if
I
I can
have.
still even boot it up, but
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. I'll. That would be one eventually. I'm still kind of in the stage where I'm like trying to do lesser known one. Of course, I say that, and I just did Fallout. But like generally. Um, yeah, Austin brought up. Oh, Austin brought up Pebble. Yeah, I want to do Pebble. Um, yeah. The Oya console that's in the list. I will do that at some point. Austin said Zune. I don't know. I'll have to see. The issue with a lot of these is like a lot of them just aren't super interesting, besides the fact that a lot of money was spent on them.
Yeah.
Like that's my core issue with a lot of these. Where like I don't because what I really don't want to fall into the trap of with this is just like making fun of the thing that failed in public, because like everyone does that. That's really overplayed, and it gets annoying after a while, where you're just like constantly negative. You're like,
Yeah.
all right, time to talk about failure number 24.
Yeah,
like it gets tiresome.
Exactly. There's like the goal is to be interesting, not dunk. Dunking doesn't serve a purpose. Telling an interesting story is the goal. And
like I love a good dunk every once in a while.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
But there also has to be more than just like this thing came out and no one bought it. The end.
Yeah.
Though, which is more difficult.
To be fair, when it comes down to it, I think the reasons why Google Glass failed, I think, are actually interesting.
Yeah.
I think
Glass is one I will hit.
The story of Pebble's massive rise and very, very devastating fall, I think that's interesting. And yes, it's interesting in part because it's a massive failure, and it does deserve to be dunked on in the most Jordan-like way. It deserves to be dunked on. But yeah, there are interesting stories in there. I don't know enough about the background on Sidekick, but I'm not sure I'm not sure there's much to dunk on there. It's just a thing that happened, it was present, and then people lost interest and it went away. Yeah,
that's also the difficult part, where like I'd like to do more of like stuff, that's the difficult thing, and that's what I end up eating a lot of time on. Is there's a lot of stuff where I'm like, this is cool, let me look into this, and there's just nothing.
Yeah,
it's like, nope, came out, that's it.
And I have
again,
a strong
the
feeling
Pokemon thing.
The Pokemon thing. Yeah, I was gonna say I think that's what's gonna happen with the Nexus Q, because as far as I know, I don't believe any of the developers that worked on that have ever really come out and said, oh yeah, here's what really happened. Here's why we canceled it before it ever shipped. Here's why the presentation was so awkward and weird. I've never heard anyone actually come right out and say, here's the backstory to this. All I ever got was the people who had ordered one that got it, some of the things they said, which for the most part, it was a whole bunch of people saying, yeah, they sent this thing out and we only ever got the one update that like cut it loose so that we could do more with it. But that's it. Like it was just this thing that's dead in the water.
Yeah, like there has to be some back and forth for it to be like, I really like the Apple Lisa episode, because that was something that got basically reworked like 5 times inside of Apple before it came out, and then it got reworked again as the Mac.
Yeah.
So it's interesting and it's historically important, and it also like didn't do that well, so it's a little bit of a flop. But yeah, like my favorite ones are the ones that go back and forth, and ideally, like that was the great thing about the I did an episode with Evan about Doom for the 3DO, and that one was great because the main developer for that has like an hour-long YouTube video on her channel where she just outlines the complete mess it was, and it's glorious. And she's really cool. But yeah, so I love that one. Oh yeah, Austin said the Microsoft kin. Okay, so fun fact: before I figured out the formula for Tech Tales, like what I thought would be good, I did have a podcast like this before that I was trying to work on, where it's just like it was more like if you've listened to most history podcasts, it's like that, where like just reading from a script alone. Eventually I was like, oh, no one wants to hear this. This is terrible. I don't even like those like history podcasts. They're too boring. Even when like smart, intelligent people with nice voices do them. But I did do work on research for Microsoft kin at that point, because that is one where like there's some back and forth. This was like a platform Microsoft was building, and then it just ended, which doesn't happen very often, unless you're Google. But like, I mean, more like, hardware and whatnot. But
yeah, and I already know, because you've said it in the past. It helps so much when the dirty details get revealed, which for the most part almost only ever happens if either A, some company employee leaves and ends up like they've kind of passed the point where anybody cares, and then they write a tell-all blog or a book or something like that, or there's a lawsuit and tons of stuff gets spilled, which thank you to Epic for making everything like they laid so much bare.
Yeah, that Epic lawsuit is going to give me like 50 episodes of content easily. Not even about the lawsuit itself, just all the court document. Like, I will when this is all over, I will figure out how to find and access court documents for this purpose. And just have a ball reading.
Yeah.
Curry said followed on Spotify, Corbin. Thank you. That's nice. Austin said you should look into big tech lawsuits. Yeah, that Epic one is good. I'll probably do one about the Microsoft antitrust lawsuit eventually.
Oh, yes.
Maybe that's a lot, but I've been trying to figure out how to tackle that, because like I do want to do a lot of like web stuff, because that's what I know, and that was partially about web stuff. So I was trying to figure out, like, do I do just all the like web browser history stuff in general, or do I focus on like just the lawsuit, or do I do other stuff? So I need to figure that out. I have one thing in here that's going to be my first like web related thing. I might pull you in for that one. I'm not sure. That one might be like my Zack Snyder's Justice League. Like, that might just be 5 hours long. And it's going to be mostly me ranting and I guess the wrong aspect ratio for your screen. So yeah, I'll see. But yeah, like I definitely want to do more web stuff, and that's part of that, so I need to figure that out. But Austin said Web3. Austin, shut up. I don't want to hear that word again. If I have to hear Web3 again, I will hurt someone.
Oh geez.
And a lot of this stuff that's happening now will be great in like 5 years, but I gotta wait for the dust to settle.
Yeah. So regarding the Microsoft antitrust suit, I kind of feel like you could. There are definitely a lot of ways to break that down, but if I were doing it, I think it makes sense to do sort of the history of Internet Explorer as much as you can get.
Yeah.
And then work in the antitrust suit, then take like an offset episode to focus just on the media player. It was technically a separate lawsuit, but it was really part of the same whole situation. Just take like one episode off to discuss that, and then return to the Internet Explorer stuff. Because
just Internet Explorer might be good, because like I was trying to think like just general like web browser, because like even people do this with web browsers in general, where they like put the time periods into categories. Like they call like the first browser war, which is like how Netscape showed up, and then we get the second one with IE and so on. But that might be the best approach, because I think now that I think about it, if I did that would probably get confusing, jumping back and forth between like pretty different topics. I don't know. Kirby said Microsoft is going to get sued again by the DOJ for forcing Edge on Windows 11. If Biden is big on antitrust, anti-competitive, and anti-monopoly, the DOJ will sit. No, they won't. I love that optimism. The DOJ is doing nothing.
And actually I'm going to reinforce that by saying, if they haven't slapped Apple for doing literally the exact same thing, I know the market share is completely different, I don't deny that, but if they haven't slapped Apple for doing that on iPhones, they're not going to touch Microsoft for doing it in Windows. Like, that is just fact. They just do not care about this at this level.
Yeah, I was listening to an episode of I think it's You're Wrong About. That's like one of the better, I don't want to say history podcasts, but it is like one of the ones that inspires the current Tech Tales format. Like, kind of just like, let's go back and like try to more critically examine this thing that happened in the past, or see if we can draw any lessons from here that might help. And they did an episode about the Enron scandal, which I didn't know much about. And they kind of made a point of like, this was really the last time the DOJ like really took action. And even then, like, a lot of the senior Enron people got off pretty scot-free. Like, they sat in jail for a couple years. Like, after that point, like, just not really do anything. You know, like, even just in recent history, they let T-Mobile and Sprint merge. Now you have 3 carriers, which I thought we all learned from Canada that was bad, but here we are. And they just let Disney buy Fox. Like, they're not pushing back on these corporate mergers, and they're also not pushing back on anti-competitive stuff really either.
In general, you can be pretty anti-competitive. You can certainly create monopolies in this country without much pushback. To be fair, I think the DOJ has largely, and I know that this is kind of a meaningless statement, but I think largely they've been so overwhelmed by trying to chase old cases of things like, you mentioned, so I think they've been trying to chase old cases of things like the various Wall Street scams. They've been chasing, obviously, like a lot of like Trump's old partners and people like that. They've been going after a lot of financial crimes that are things that they can actually get wins on. And I say that because, frankly, I don't think that if they chase after monopoly situations, I don't think they get wins. And so it just looks bad, and they're wasting money. So they're chasing after people that they can realistically beat in court. It wouldn't surprise me if this was kind of like our immigration system, where it's just so overloaded it can't do anything. Right, like, and again, like the immigration system that helps a lot of the people in power who don't want it to be functional, right? Like, when so many people are getting kickbacks from like the T-Mobile deal and these other big acquisitions, like, why make the DOJ better?
right? If you're Trump and you see that the the time it takes to legally immigrate into the United States is like a decade, like, why fix it? Just keep them out. So
Yeah,
I get why it is. It's really frustrating, especially because like these corporate mergers are becoming more and more terrifying. I I get like I thought Wall-E was supposed to be a fictional movie, but we're getting to the point where just Earth is covered in shit and there's one company. That's where we're at.
Wasn't that also part of this plot of Idiocracy?
I don't know. I haven't seen that.
Wait, what? Really?
I'm pretty sure I've not seen. I know, Cody. You know I haven't seen movie.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I still think you're a criminal for not seeing Fifth Element, but
I'm sorry.
I genuinely, I actually thought you had referenced Idiocracy in a way that implied that you knew it. I like, no joke. I just thought you had seen the movie.
Well, I have HBO now, so I guess I can start watching a lot of the movies. That's where they all end up. Hulu gets the garbage. I've paid for Hulu for a while. Hulu only has good TV shows.
Yeah, I will say Idiocracy. There was a time when it was still relatively fresh. When watching it, looked like a silly, ridiculous caricature of the future that obviously we would never have. And then when you watch Idiocracy now, it's like, oh, we're there.
That's like, also like not to nearly the same extent, but that's a little bit how like every piece of media about like a zombie outbreak feels now. Like, a virus that was spreading quickly and shut down the world. Wonder what that's like.
Yeah, except the zombie stuff was way more interesting.
Yeah.
And it allows for some action.
Here I just didn't go outside and got depressed. That's not fun. That's not a good movie.
To be fair though, there was this one movie, it came out not too far into the pandemic. It starred the...
Oh, I remember, because that was the one you're talking about, the one that they advertised that LG phone in, I think, right? I'm pretty sure there was like a disaster movie that showed up, and it made a little bit of news because LG paid money to put the their flippy phone in it.
Oh, I'm
LG...
like 97% certain not the same.
Okay. All right.
Because honestly, I doubt this movie got any that kind of sponsorship or money, because it starred I'm looking it up, so that's how I'm finding the name. It starred Tyler Posey. He was the main kid on the Teen Wolf TV show that finished up a few years back. The movie was called Alone. And
Okay.
it was spectacularly average-ish.
Mm-hmm.
Though it did have Donald Sutherland in it, in what I'm thinking is probably like one of his last roles, you would think.
Mm.
Anyway, like the first 15-20 minutes of the movie, it is literally just Tyler Posey in his apartment, never going out, just getting depressed and watching TV and like doing nothing and being miserable. And as I'm watching this, it's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
You guys made this, you guys shot this before the pandemic happened. Did you edit it this way to make sure it would feel that close to home, or was that just a mistake? Did you screw up and this is what you ended up with? Because it feels a little too on the nose.
Yeah. But so in conclusion, that's why picking Tech Tales topics is kind of difficult, because like even the stuff that you feel like should have had enough of an impact to have an interesting story behind it. There's just like not a lot. And even if there was at one point, like because we're in the age of the internet, not everything sticks around. Which is interesting how like some of the like honestly, I was having more difficult. Well, okay, I shouldn't say this, but like, how do I frame this? Is it feels like when I'm researching these episodes, there's like a horseshoe of like, there's a period where in time where there's a lot of sources, and then when I get to about 10 years ago, it's just boom, it's all, everything's deleted. Like I was having a good amount of trouble finding sources and or like functional sources for the Galaxy Note series, which is crazy because that was like 5 years ago, 2016.
It's a form of bit rot.
Yeah, once we go past like 2 years ago, my sources are the New York Times and like Washington Post and organizations like that, and newspapers.com, and that's it basically. And also like sometimes and this happened with the Lisa episode, there'll be people who either worked on what I'm talking about or helped archive this stuff, and they have a website that I can tell has not been touched since 1997 that is still running. And those are always great. Like that helped, that saved my bacon when I did the General Motors EV1 episode with Joe, because one of the big things there was, so this was an electric car, and at a certain point, this guy who was a cinematographer for Star Trek Voyager, really liked the car, and he set up like these radio ads to advertise the car for GM. GM originally didn't approve of these. They eventually realized, like, oh, it's advertising. We're cool with this. But like I kept finding news articles that talked about these radio ads. I'm like, where are the radio ads? I know this was the 90s, and like hosting files online back then was not super easy. But like, where are they? I need to find them. And finally, I stumble upon this EV1 fan site that, again, was programmed like 20 years ago. There's no CSS anywhere. But it has like the raw audio files of these that someone, I guess, either got from the cinematographer or recorded off the radio. And I'm like, this is great, thank you. Because the episode wouldn't have been as good without those. But yeah, so like even a lot of stuff that had a big impact and maybe wasn't even that long ago, like, is surprisingly difficult to research. And it's giving me, I really don't want to say I respect the New York Times because they let some real garbage on that website, but it does make me respect like New York Times and all these other newspapers that like do not delete anything. And in fact, actually, like what the New York Times does, and I believe like LA Times and Washington Post, I think, is they've gone back and text indexed or like did the like photo to text of their newspaper articles. So, and they format it perfectly. Like there'll just be an article on the New York Times website that's formatted like their new articles, but the date is like 1987. So then Google knows what it is, and I can find it easier. So it makes me appreciate that Internet Archive is great too, but it's really difficult to navigate that if you don't have what the original URL was. Like that was really kicking my butt when I did the episode about the Xperia Play. I was just trying to figure out how much that phone cost at various points in time. That was almost impossible because like I couldn't find like what, this was like 2012. I couldn't find like what the exact URL was for this on like Verizon's website and stuff. Like I was navigating through that in the Internet Archive, and you find pages that are dead links. Like it didn't get archived to a point, and it's like, okay, I'm just gonna make a guess here.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of things go down. Websites just so many of them either don't exist, or in a much more common case, they get bought up or transferred to some other company or owner, and at a certain point people either decide to tear down what was there, which I get it. I mean, there are times when that makes sense. I would too. But then all too often they'll also, it might be because they decide to change the format of their site. Like, this has now happened with Android Police twice. If you go back to the early days, the very early days of Android Police articles, half of them are basically unusable now. And that happened in part when we did the transition from the original Android Police theme to the AP2 theme. That AP version 2 theme was they spent months trying to make that work with old articles, and it mostly did, but there were a few things that definitely got lost or broken. And then with Valnet's acquisition, forget it. Like, there are so many old articles. Literally, if you go look at them, their formatting is so broken. You might be missing text. A lot of images are just completely gone. Anything that was animated, like as in animated GIFs, all gone. Completely all gone. Mm-hmm. Anything that was embedded, all that stuff's toast. So, yeah, a lot of old Android Police stuff is just destroyed. And
Android Police is still one of the better ones.
Yeah.
I was able pretty easily to find the articles I was writing at the time about the Galaxy Note 7 exploding. And even farther back than that. There's a lot of websites where I keep finding articles from really recently that are just gone.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's no archive of that. And it really sucks. Because I want to like try to do my best here, but also just because it's knowledge trickling away just very slowly. And sometimes it's not that big of a loss, like, not quite like Library of Alexandria going away when a deal post from 8 months ago is not accessible. But
yeah,
in some cases it does bite.
There have definitely been a lot of instances where I've gone back looking for things, and when you get to a site and find it's a dead link, or worse, they've decided to redirect to something completely unrelated. Not talking about anywhere specific.
No.
Yeah, it just becomes, it's a mess. It's bad for everybody when sites start just tearing stuff down or repurposing it in ways that just destroy what it used to be.
Yeah, it's annoying, especially because like I'm trying to archive as I go. Like I set up a system internally that helps me with that, but it's that doesn't always work, and who knows how long the Internet Archive will stick around. Hopefully a long time, but I don't know. I'm sure it costs a lot of money to run those servers.
Yep. And sadly, and as much as like this is something Google can, and I don't want to say should, but it'd be great if they did.
It would make defending themselves against the non-existent antitrust lawsuit easier. Where they're like, I am the bastion of knowledge. No, actually, as I say that might make it worse.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking, wait a second.
I am the holder of all knowledge. Don't worry about where my algorithms are coming from. No, but yeah, and also one other thing that is kind of hilarious is one of the main arguments against, or like one of the main arguments for emulation, like console emulation, has been like all this hardware will die, right? Like that's why
Yes.
we need to back up these games, because at some point every Super Nintendo in existence will die, and you can't, at a certain point, like you can't make these chips again, and you can't, no one's making main boards for those anymore. So, and I'm kind of running into that same point with some old websites, which is partially why I made my browser extension no plugin. But there's a lot of websites that even if you go back on the Internet Archive, a lot of the content is not HTML, it's some wackadoodle plugin. Like if it's not Flash, then it's Java or Shockwave or one of these like really weird plugins that like was around for a really short period of time and only works on like one version of Windows or something. Like there's a lot of stuff where it's like, okay, great. So to access this information, I have to plug a Windows XP machine into my internet.
Yeah.
Which is not a good idea. So
I mean, at this point, the viruses that targeted Windows XP might actually no longer work.
This is what the Windows 7 people are holding out for. Like, I'm just gonna wait until everyone's moved on.
And yeah.
Oh, yeah, geez. That's kind of what I think about. Like every time I have my Power Mac back here running Mac OS 9, and I've connected to my network a couple times to transfer files because it's faster than USB 1.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it would be extremely easy to compromise my network right now, but is it like like if a nation state isn't trying to go after me, I'm probably safer, honestly.
Yeah.
Is anyone distributing viruses for Mac OS 9? Probably not. I think that ship sailed. Although
that ship was sunk.
Someone made that would be the funniest thing in the world if somehow this computer got like a crypto miner on it. That'd be hilarious.
1 mega hash per month.
Yeah. Like I can only remember how grossly inefficient some of those power PC chips were just booting up a computer and running it. I can't imagine them mining crypto. That would be the funniest thing ever.
Sad part is I almost can't imagine that. It's stupid.
House fire. That's what it starts.
Well, they would certainly melt themselves eventually, yeah.
Yeah. That's another episode I'd like to do, is all of Apple's hardware transitions.
All of Apple's hardware transitions and how well they run crypto today.
Today we're benchmarking a Motorola 6800 Mac and a Apple Silicon Mac. Let's see how they do.
And in October, it's all iPods all the time. Can you mine crypto on your Shuffle?
Oh, don't say that, Cody. Someone will try.
Are you kidding? Remember, there were people who were looking into mining crypto on phones. Like, they actually wanted to use old phones to mine crypto. It's like, no, just don't. Please don't.
You know what I almost want to see happen? I don't, because I hate all of this, but I almost want to see this happen. Is I'd love to imagine that, like, the reason why we're all mining on graphics cards is because, like, just the way they are built is the most efficient for this thing we've invented. It would be so hilarious to me if someone went back in time, and, well, not back in time, but I mean, like, going through old devices, and somehow they find some weird CPU architecture, or like,
you mean like the PlayStation 3, the cell architecture?
Yeah, like some weird CPU architecture that somehow ends up being like the most magical thing for crypto mining ever, and then just suddenly everyone's buying those up. That would be hilarious. Like if someone went back and realized, oh my god, I just mined 5 Bitcoin on my Amiga. that would be hilarious.
Okay, look.
I feel like there's a non-zero chance of something like that because of all the weird stuff going on in the 90s.
I just want to say,
believe it. Yeah.
I still have my old PS3 if anyone wants to buy it.
Cody, you can play Fallout 3 on that. It's a great console. You can play the bad version of Fallout
Yes.
3.
No,
and the bad version of Skyrim. It's like, what more could you need?
You
And it
you
can
can play
almost
the bad
play-
version of everything
Yeah.
on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Does GTA 5 still work if you try to do online? I don't know.
Honestly,
Because I know
I don't even know if it still turns on. I'm sure it does. Actually, there's no reason it wouldn't. But
because
yes.
I know when Valve released the orange box for consoles, which was like Half-Life 2 episode something, and the original Portal and the original Team Fortress 2, not the original Team Fortress. They updated that for like a couple months and then didn't touch again. So if you have Team Fortress 2 on a console, it's like going back in time, basically. So it's kind of fun for that reason. But
Well, and
oh no, Austin said I bought a Google Glass on eBay while listening to this. Austin,
I'm
is that the
genuinely curious. Did you actually do that? Because I know sometimes you troll. And if you did, how much did it cost? Somehow I'm imagining this is probably in the realm of like $150.
You said I gotta mine Bitcoin with it. It would take a brave person to mine crypto on something attached to your face. That's asking for trouble.
More importantly, on an old Texas Instruments processor.
Okay, I know for a fact that would not be one of the things that ends up being good for crypto. I had a Moto 360. That was rough.
It was 270. Okay, I'm not surprised by that. That's still within the territory of it makes sense.
I've spent more money on much more useless things, Austin. I paid how much I paid way too much money for my Nissan Leaf. So I think that's a better return on investment.
Yeah, if I had any idea where it was still at, actually I think I do know. I'm pretty sure it's my really, really, really old MacBook Pro. Maybe I'll send you the app I wrote for Google Glass. Because I did in fact actually write an app, and the only person who actively used it was Liam Spradlin.
Did it add a light bar to Google Glass?
It did not.
Damn it!
Though what
I'm
it
so
did,
disappointed.
What it did, honestly, it's funny because this was one of those things so many people obviously would have actually liked, and if Google ever got their act together with the store, it probably would have been one of the more commonly downloaded apps. But basically, it would just watch your battery level when you plugged it in, and when your Google Glass was fully charged, it would make the loudest chime that it could. That way, you would know your glass was actually charged up.
That's helpful, I would imagine.
And I was going to add notification or like push notifications, like a cross app notification system to it, but they never really got that working correctly on Glass. So you could send them, but not really. And plus, they have changed their push notification system, I think, 3 times. And one of those times was actually pretty close to when this occurred, so I just never got around to it. But, yeah.
I mean, that's what Samsung added that pretty recently to the Galaxy Watch, where now when I charge my watch, I'll get a notification on my phone when it's done charging, which has not been helpful a single time. Because I don't keep the watch on, like I'm not like going to work and I have my watch on all the time. So like 90% of the time it is on its charger. and like I'll just keep getting like alerts at like 1 a.m. It's like your watch is charged. I'm like, great. What do I do with this information?
Yeah.
Like I hope it's charged. It hasn't left the charger in 16 hours.
Austin says it's a collector's item at this point, and yeah, exactly, it is. But you never know.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you might see that weird opportunity to be like, hey, I wonder if this works. Let's try it. Or I want to see what I can do with it. The real shame, honestly, is that no one will ever get to see what it was like using Google Maps on Glass. Because honestly, it really was. For navigation, it was amazingly good. It had
That's
flaws,
why I still want. Yeah.
but it was really good, and now no one can do that. At least I don't believe anyone can.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that I would buy something like this again. Like I don't really love the idea of buying Google hardware anymore, or as much as I used to. But like I'd probably do that because like that is like actually helpful. Like when I went to Washington D.C. over the summer and like I was walking around a lot, I'm just looking down the phone, look up, looking down the phone, look up, trying to figure out where to walk to. That would have been cool. Yeah, and I just recently, now that I have the Watch 4, I do have Google Maps on my wrist again. But still, I'm looking down, looking up, looking down.
And with Glass, it still wasn't perfect because you had to like tilt your head up in order to activate it and stuff like that. Though if you change the settings, you can make it stay awake a little bit longer. The funny thing is, what I got used to doing was tilt the head up, get it to wake up, and then tilt the head down, because the position of Glass, like where it puts that heads up display, was kind of like here.
Right.
And so you wanted to tilt it down just a little bit so it's actually like in line with the road. And because it's still a transparent view, it's really not blocking your vision. Like the head goes up, the head goes down, and then you just keep it there while you're watching. And you can see every car, you can see the map. It honestly was a really good experience, and it was the least dangerous thing that I've ever seen in terms of driving. And compare that with Android Auto today, where you watch the road and then you physically have to look off at your dashboard to see Google Maps. It's large, it's visible, it's definitely better than staring at maps on your phone, but I'm sorry, it is nowhere close to being as safe as having the heads-up display from Glass. So
yeah, Kirby said if Apple's AR VR thing takes off, Google will want in on that action.
No, I agree. I think Glass will happen again as soon as Apple tries it again, but
well, I don't know if you've been keeping up with reports, but there's been a couple things in the past couple months where Google is actively working on this thing, because turns out the main person at Meta, who was heading all of their VR stuff, didn't really like that Facebook is a shitty company, and he left, and then he went to Google, and now he's like the head of Google's VR AR stuff, or like other, specifically like the whatever headset they're working on now. But yeah, I thought that was funny because he talked to, I want to say, The Intercept or someone after he left, and he was like, oh yeah, I saw the whole like Facebook whistleblower thing go down, and I was like, I think I should leave. I was like, yeah, I mean, don't know how much more ethical Google is, but an upgrade for sure. And now he's probably personally responsible for setting back Meta's timeline for this by several years, which is also great. Like the same thing happened with this happens a lot when like big executive people leave. Like Meta's person for their crypto shit left somewhat recently, and so that's about the time when all their plans started falling apart.
Okay, so that actually leaves me, I don't want to say curious, but that leaves me with a bit of I don't know what word I want to use, but it strikes me that so many companies have talked about how they're already on Meta, and or they're gonna go all in and they're gonna invest in this and all this other stuff. And I look at it and it's like, wait a second, Facebook announced this like just a few months ago, and now it's as people talk about it as if it hasn't just happened, but like this is already just the world we're in, where this is a normal thing. And I'm not really clear when and how that happened, but I'm pretty sure it never actually happened. Am I wrong? Like, don't they at this point just have like a demo VR sandbox, which is basically like Gary's Mod plus Facebook crap?
Yeah, I again, like, I haven't bought any of the Oculus stuff because of Facebook, but from what I've seen from other people using it, is they do have like one game that's kind of like VR chat a little bit. If you see VR chat was like the first like big version of this, where it's like, oh, it's like a VR game and people can make their own like little worlds in it. Except VR chat is apparently way better. This is again like kind of like you're just, you know, hanging out with other people in VR. I don't know how customizable it is, but yeah, no, it is kind of bizarre how like in like 6 months this is the thing that like everyone's pivoting. I mean, it's the same thing with like blockchain. Like every once in a while the tech industry finds like a new word that is exciting, and at a certain point investors who don't get how technology works is like, are you working on this? No? Okay, I'm leaving then. So then at a certain point they'd be like, okay, we're doing something, and then nothing happens.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure how most of this will go now, but yeah, no, and I especially don't like this because at least with blockchain garbage, it wasn't like, first of all, most of those implementations didn't happen because everyone realized it's not a good technology for most of what it says it's going to do. And with the whole metaverse garbage, it is like Meta is in control of this because they were the only one investing in VR before this became a thing.
Yeah.
Which again, I hate that Google had this. Google had like a whole VR platform like 5 years ago. They just kind of gave up on it. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, it is very bizarre. And I, you know, for months now, I've had a filter on my work email where if I get anything that says metaverse or like crypto in it, it goes straight in the trash. I don't see it. So if someone emailed me to tell me I won $1 million and they said crypto in it, I wouldn't see it. But that's a price I'm willing to pay.
So, with regards to VR, I think I'm coming to terms with kind of what's happened. I've said this for years, and by years I mean literally now decades. VR is one of those things where every few years it resurfaces. It shows up for a little while as somebody tries to use whatever's the most current technology to try to push VR in whatever form. I mean, I literally remember back in the day having those crappy red and blue 3D glasses and seeing VR apps or demos that ran on your computer and created the kind of cheesy 3D look. And over the years, like I said, it resurfaces for a while, then dies. What I feel like's happening now is Google and obviously several other companies all saw VR and were like, yeah, let's try this again. And about half of them realized, yep, the technology's still not there, this sucks, and we're gonna let it die. And about the other half really just Facebook / Oculus and HTC, they basically said, you know what? Nah, we made it this far. We're just gonna hold on. We're gonna cling, and hopefully the technology gets there before we have to give up.
That's what I was trying to get up before. Like, at some one of the Facebook was the one holding the bag, basically.
Yeah.
Like they're just the last one in, and out of nowhere, there's this increased attention on this topic.
And they're just gonna stake their claim until it becomes viable, because why let someone else swoop in and suddenly be the successful one?
And at this point, they've staked their entire company on it, just about, which is
I wouldn't go that far.
As far as future plans, I would say, which is weird because that is a weird thing to pivot to when you have like the #1 messaging application and one of the top social networks and everything else. But yeah, I don't know. I hate it all. I think I get tired of hearing about this. I just would like a VR headset to play Job Simulator on every once in a while, and that's it. That's all I don't need. I don't want to do. I tried VR chat. It was just annoying. Yeah.
I really just want. I want a decent system so that I can play whatever that Half-Life prequel game or whatever it was.
Half-Life Alex. Yeah.
Alex? Oh, okay.
I think
It could have been Half-Life Karen for all that matters. Anyway, I really just want that, and I don't know if it ever actually came out, but they were supposedly making The Last of Us 2 with a VR mode, and I'd kind of like to actually try that. Like, I want those specific types of experiences. I don't really care about the rest. I don't want to try to do VR chat. That's stupid. I'm sorry, but it's dumb. It's all the things that are awful about MMO world, like chat mode that like EverQuest used to have and stuff like that. Except it's made worse by the fact that your input modes suck.
Yeah, like I'm kind of in the same camp where if it was not owned by Meta / Facebook, I hate that name.
God,
if it's not owned by if it was not owned by Facebook, I would have bought an Oculus Go or Quest already, and I would have put Job Simulator on it and like 3 other games I've seen that look fun, and that's it. And then I also still want my AR headset for Google Maps. Those are my 2 things I would like. Please have them done by the end of the week, and I'll come pick them up.
Yeah, pretty much.
Job Simulator was so much fun, but it got to be such a pain just to set up any VR games at all. I love the self-contained VR stuff. Like, just put on the thing. I'm not trying to dig behind my computer to find the HDMI port again. But it's like the only one of those is made by Meta. I'm not buying their stuff.
I don't know. I definitely want more, but I don't care enough to want more that much. I'm getting closer and closer to the point where I think PlayStation VR was still the right choice. Just give us a headset with the ability to detect motion, and that's it. I don't feel like we need anything that involves standing up. We don't need something that involves physically walking around. We don't need half of the stuff that Oculus was trying to put in. I don't even feel like we need motion control, like controllers. I really just want the thing that I can use to look around, and I'm pretty good with that.
Yeah, I just would like a glass again.
Yeah. That being said, man, I want the form factor of glass to be different. Glasses make sense, but having a big wedge sitting on the side of your head Like it wasn't uncomfortable or anything. It actually worked really well in that sense. But it was clumsy, it looked weird. People obviously weren't into it, so I kind of want to see I want to see the technology made transparent.
Yeah, and that's also what kills me with what Daydream was. This stuff resurfaces constantly, and yet we're still just like working from the same base point every time. It's like, all right, everything we worked on before is now too old to be relevant, and so we got to start all over again. It's like, what? The number of times we've started over, we could have had something good by now.
Yeah. In this instance, I actually disagree, because I think by starting over, they've in many cases, I think the starting over process has actually allowed them or forced them perhaps to try to do something new or for the first time, and accidentally kind of force them to also think about a problem a different way and actually solve it better. Not to say that they haven't maybe regressed in other ways and probably should go back and look at what has been done in the past, but I think generally speaking, lessons learned from the past are probably keeping them from making some of these old mistakes, and that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's certainly, it's kind of like it's a little column A, a little column B.
Yeah, because like also this is kind of the thing where like I just imagine like if phones were like this, where like if phones were like no one tried enough to make them good, and instead they just kept falling off in popularity like every 5 years, and then like every 5 years we got a completely different phone. Like it's just like entirely different, but still not good.
Here's the thing: you are literally describing the pre-iPhone age.
Yeah. Yeah. But, yeah. Again, I would really like one of those self-contained headsets, but it's Google gave up on that, which makes me sad. Because I like Daydream, but the only phone I ever had that worked with it was my original Pixel, and it was a small Pixel, so it was absolutely the worst phone for that form factor. But I did watch YouTube in VR, and I was like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah. What gets me, and I mentioned this, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago, I recently set up my Pixel 2, I think it was, with Daydream, just to see if it worked. And as I was goofing around with it, one of the things I noticed not too long after is I started getting emails from Google about Daydream. All of their automated emails are still being sent out if you set up a Daydream as new. And
that's funny.
Oh god, it's almost cringy because they're marketing things that are old and no longer supported. And Daydream itself is only half functional. Like you're supposed to be able to open the Play Store inside of Daydream. You can't. It does not connect. It is busted. So if you want to download anything that supports Daydream, you actually have to leave the Daydream viewer, open the Play Store on your phone, and download it there. Which most of those apps also had it already removed, so that also doesn't work. Yeah, bad times. Daydream is basically gone. But all those recycled whatever masks, the headsets, they are all still lying around in drawers waiting for someone to find a use for them.
Lineage OS Daydream. Make it happen.
Please no.
Well, it reminds me of I think it's called Rockbox. It's like a custom firmware that supports like a bunch of old MP3 players, like that kind of idea where it's like, okay, here's all these old things that no one wants anymore. Let's make them almost useful.
Jeez.
I put that on my original iPod Nano at some point, and it was kind of cool because then I could just dump MP3 files onto it and play it. I didn't have to use iTunes. So I was like, oh, this is cool. And that, you know what they guess what game was included in Rockbox, Cody?
I don't know.
Like what game do you think they ported to this that runs on MP3 players?
Doom.
Yes. Of course it's Doom.
I mean, when you say I would have figured Doom anyway, but you said MP3 players. It's like, oh, okay, well, you're definitely talking about that in this game. For a second, I was
gotten enough.
For a second, I was waiting for it to be something really, truly ridiculous, like Tekken or something that just shouldn't make
Smash
any sense.
Bros on the iPod Nano. So I have played Doom with a touch wheel. It doesn't work, but it's neat.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
In all the worst ways, of course, but it would be fun.
David said, I remember using Rockbox on my Sanders. Yeah, I hope they're still around, but I remember Rockbox was really cool. Also because they got video playback working on the original Nano.
I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, Apple didn't. You had to encode the video in a weird format, which was difficult for me to do when I was like 12.
If I remember, it was some sort of like offshoot of 3GP.
Yeah, and of course it didn't look good, but it did work. So pretty close. Oh yeah, they're still around. What iPods do they work with? Oh, they never added more Nanos. You're still limited to the second gen and first gen. Dang it.
They probably never found a way to jailbreak the rest of them.
No, I'm sure that those are locked down until someone starts like a funding goal. If you can get into my iPod Nano 3G, you get $10 million. Good luck.
Well, GeoHot will be there for that.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that guy?
No. So I've been in this chair so long that my ass hurts now. So I'm gonna go for real now.
Oh, Corbin, I'm totally editing that so it loses the first half of that sentence.
You don't edit. Let's get out of here. Edit.
Hey, I currently have, no joke, DaVinci Resolve open with what is it? 6 video tracks all stacked on top of each other. It is a fact.
Well, you don't edit this.
That also is a fact.
I don't know if you could pay someone to edit this. This is way too much work for no return.
I'm sure somebody would take the job if offered. I will not be offering the job, but I'm sure someone would take it if offered.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going now.
All right. Which, funny enough, we still never even talked about the Bungie thing, which was literally the original. Like, I even did the transition to start talking about it, and you just
doesn't matter. We got to talk about iPod firmware.
Yes. All right, man.
Great.
Well,
it's the RambleCast for a reason.
It certainly is that. Anyway, take it easy. I will catch you, I guess, next week, probably. And
probably, I don't know. Well, next week is Samsung stuff, so I might actually not legally be able to stop work. For at least a 72-hour period.
There is that. That or you're just gonna suddenly call me up and be like, "Hey, Textile's recording."
Yeah. As the Samsung event is happening, I get like DMs like, "Corbin, where are you? We need to write something." And be like, "I'm talking about the iPod Nano right now. You will wait until I'm done."
It could happen. Oh, it's awful. All right, man.
Okay, goodbye.
Take it easy.
Goodbye.
Okay. Well, we'll close up those. Move windows around just a little bit. So yeah, sorry, I wasn't super responsive to comments for a little while, but yeah, I was reading everything. So yeah, anyway, that being said, I actually am pretty much, yep, okay, I am caught up on all the comments that have been in chat. So David brought up, and yeah, it was literally what going to be the opening topic. Sony has acquired Bungie. Obviously, this is just, it's another reaction, or it is a reaction to Microsoft buying Activision. If you actually, let's switch to the correct scene. There we go. And if you take a look at some of the things that have been written about this, like one title I think says it very perfectly. Sony, quote unquote, vastly overpaid in desperation for Bungie. So the analyst, I don't know him. I don't really care what he says, but the thing is, this isn't the only person saying this. And I don't know how important this is, but my assumption, my perception on this is, I think Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard probably triggered Sony to look at the situation, and they just reacted. Like they saw Microsoft possibly doing a big purchase, not just one big purchase, but possibly lining up multiple, and they probably recognized there was a possibility that Bungie might have been also in Microsoft's sights, possibly even working their own acquisition deal over there. So yeah, my hunch, they probably reacted because they needed to, or they felt they needed to. Michael Pachter is a well-known figure in gaming and tech. Okay, like I said, I don't know him. I'm not sure if he's important or not, because to be fair, well-known doesn't necessarily mean good or important. It just means people are familiar with him. But yeah, anyway, when all is said and done, I don't think there's actually that much to say about this, because Bungie is a much smaller company and they have a smaller product portfolio. There's a lot less to actually be said about Bungie's portfolio. That being said, I think there's a lot of interesting possibility for this to go many different directions, and that could prove to be interesting. Because this definitely puts Sony into the position of owning a free-to-play game. I think it very possibly puts Sony in position to try to maybe change some of its marketing and to change some of its business models. If they don't take this opportunity to do that, they'd be nuts. But hey, you never know. Yeah, anyway, I don't have a lot to say on this. You want Bungie to make a Killzone reboot? Well, at this stage, they very well might. That's one of the things. Sony, at least, I know Sony's acquisition history is usually a lot quieter, but it seems like whenever Sony picks up something, they're pretty good about taking old IP and bringing it back to life. Which, it's funny because when you say it like that, it's, yeah, they take old intellectual property and bring new life into it. Whereas when something like this happens in movies, everyone looks at it and goes, oh, it's just another dumb remake, and they get mad because the original was good enough. But when it's a game, no, let's, please, we need more of that thing that we already liked. The last Killzone was PS Vita and PS4. I mean, when you say it like that, it honestly doesn't sound that old. PS4 was still the contemporary, what, a year and a half ago? The PS4 version was a flop. PS2 and 3 had versions, were great. Sure, but that doesn't mean that the franchise is dead. It just means that it stagnated a little bit. The PS5 is still fairly new. I mean, just to put it in perspective. But yeah, so I really don't have much to say on this. I just think I mean, for fuck's sake, this has been talked to death already, but kind of felt like it had to be mentioned. And I figured Corbin would have more to say on this, but yeah, we didn't get there. So let's see, I'll close that, but bring us back to this as a bit of a transition. So the whole thing I talked about earlier with Android updates, one of the things that this guy or girl brought up was that basically the purpose of AOSP is presumably basically to feed the Pixel. And this week, evidently, it worked. Or rather, for the last few months, it has worked because it's now known that the Pixel 6 is breaking records for phone sales from Google. They obviously didn't share numbers. They don't get into specifics, but the Pixel 6 is now the highest selling smartphone Google has ever pushed. Basically it's setting pretty significant records in that sense, but we don't know what those records are. Nevertheless, I think everyone kind of predicted that, but it's still good. I mean, I think everyone wanted to see a viable come up in some way. We needed some company that was going to rise up and take at least some market share off of Apple and Samsung. And not like OnePlus doesn't do it, or a few other companies. They're trying, but yeah, this is a step in the right direction. Kirby, let's see that in July. I want to see the 9-month period. Yeah, it's still unclear what exactly this means in the long run. But that being said, at this stage, like, if a phone comes out one particular month, usually the sales of that model of phone last maybe up to 6 months, and then they mostly just hit a wall. And for that matter, I mean, they even after the first 2 to 3 months, they usually hit a wall, or at least until you have the stage where the product can sit on a store shelf for more than a week. And so I think the Pixel is probably going to just, like, I think they've already blown away all the other numbers, even if you extend out across the whole year. Like, I think it's an automatic. But you never know. So cheers to this. I think it'll be interesting. That being said, Google has this work cut out for it, because now you have that many more customers that are kind of annoyed at bugs, weird behavior, unpredictable stuff. Yeah, they're gonna have to treat their phones a little better now. Let's see, Curvy. Only the diehards buying the first 3 months. Regular people buy over time. I wouldn't say that. I mean, there's obviously a degree of truth in that, but I think you do have a lot of people who, when they go out and buy a phone, they research what are the most recent phones to come out. And a lot of those people, they might be buying in the early months just purely because that's the timing for when they're going to buy. or they might recognize that they want to get a new phone and the timing works out. And obviously there are some people who just lose or damage a phone. Some people might be buying the phone for not like rush purposes, but for any personal life reason why they need to get a new phone. They absolutely might pick this up in the first 3 months. Let's see. Oh yeah, I'm sure a lot of people did trade-ins of the Pixel 2 and 3, probably even Pixel 4. The return value on the Pixel 4 really didn't make a lot of sense, but I bet a lot of people did trade in the 4 to get the 5 or to get the 6. Oh, I feel like I'm not gonna last too much longer either. Did not have a lot of sleep the last week. So yeah, anyway, again, no numbers. I don't think there's this is like the redundant statement of the night, but there's not a lot to say here. This has actually been, while there's technically been a lot of events happening, this has been a very loose week for news. But sure, let's pop into this story. Continuing on the iMessage trend, because everyone's got to talk about it. It's the only thing anybody talks about. Google Messages has now released its quote fix for iMessage reactions. So it watches for certain types of reactions and uses that to attach emoji in a way that looks kind of similar to what you get on iOS. So as a result, they've now brute forced a tool that will behave kind of okay with messaging iMessage people. The catch, of course, is it doesn't show anything to them. Like, you can't react to their messages, you can't do anything. Sudden tongue tied. But you can't get like back and forth reactions or anything like that. It's just you can understand the reactions they gave you. Let's see. Okay, just read the comments real quick. There's so little to say about this, but here's one of the reactions. It's a thing. I would say the icons look a little generic, but they work. So it's kind of interesting, I guess. Let's see. Yep. The face with hearts, and this is what? Oh, that's a happy face. There should be a frowny face in here. Is there? Come on. I guess not. Weird. Anyway, so cheers to that. Let's see, what are you saying? Damn, liked annoying messages that people got. It's funny because I just really never saw those, which leaves me thinking that even if I was talking to iMessage users, none of them used the reactions. I'm guessing that's the only explanation I got. But it is what it is. Okay. And so yeah, to me, this isn't going to move the needle at all. It just makes it look more and more like Google is trying to do the right thing or the nice thing, and their goal here is just to make Apple look ambivalent, which is probably going to work, which is also the smart thing to do. But hey, anyway, all right, so this is the only other topic I have, and I'm feeling pretty beat, so I think after this topic, probably just going to wrap and go, unless anyone has something else interesting to post up. And I'm actually going to pull the headphones off because this pair, my normal pair, broke just last night, so I'm using this other pair, and God, they're uncomfortable. It is what it is. Anyway, so the quick and dirty of this, and AP has a pretty good write-up. There's the link to the post if anybody cares. So Blackberry has technically still been a company for a while, and it still makes some products, though nothing anybody really pays attention to or cares about anymore. The thing is, though, they still had all of their patents from being a mobile phone company. The catch or benefit or whatever to this is they really weren't using it. So if you're a company that owns a bunch of patents and you're not using them, then you're pretty much just wasting the value of those patents. Well, this other company has now come along. Let's see, do we have the name? Where is that name? Catapult. Apparently the name of the company is Catapult. But they're basically going to buy the entire stock portfolio, at least anything involving smartphone stuff, and they're going to do who knows what with it. In all likelihood, my guess, they're probably buying it because they figure there are a few companies that they can sue for gobs, just tons and tons of money, and they're going to do exactly like what the Rockstar Consortium did many years ago, which was buy up a whole bunch of patents and then selectively pick stuff to sue companies with. And so Google will have to fight these for a while. Most likely Google. It could be other companies too. It could target Apple, it could target Samsung, it could probably even target carriers and several others, but I feel like it's a safe bet Google's gonna end up at the target end of this. So yeah, I think a lot of litigation is probably going to be coming. It will be the next news story, and yeah, companies are going to stupidly fight it out again, further proving that patents are awful. Sorry. Yeah, I'm just feeling wiped. But yeah. Anyways, so Blackberry is now truly and officially, in my opinion, out of the mobile game. There's obviously going to be, they're still licensing out their name. They're still doing things, but I don't think we'll ever see another truly Blackberry-made phone. There will still be phones bearing the name Blackberry, most likely, but the chances are pretty low that this person has, this company will do any, why am I saying it like that? It's very unlikely we're ever going to see Blackberry proper ever make a phone again. Without patents, we would not have great companies like Qualcomm and Oracle. Oh, David. It's sad, but true. I hate both of them so much. Actually, I don't really hate Qualcomm. I just think Qualcomm is easy to dunk on. Because they've done some bad work. They've done some really bad work. It's so bad that it kind of makes you wonder, who did they have that delivered fairly good work? Because there was a time when Qualcomm actually did get some fairly impressive stuff given their limited resources and how quickly they rushed to get some things in play. Whereas, just objectively... where was I going with that? Man. Okay. Yeah, my I don't know what it is. Just my brain has suddenly started wandering in the weirdest way. Okay, so I think with that, I'm actually just gonna wrap, because if I keep going, I'm probably just gonna start babbling incoherently more than I already am. So let's see. This weekend, what's happening this weekend? I have a review that I'm going to be working on that may get in the way of gaming, possibly, but I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that I will be doing game streams this weekend. So, in all likelihood, that is going to include Control. I will probably be returning to that. And there's a chance that I may do, I know I say this all the time, but like a photo edit stream, possibly photo taking stream, both are possible. I'm a little bit more leaning photo edit just because, well, that could be tough, but may have to test a few things. Photo taking is an easier hardware setup in the sense that I know it can work. Photo edit I have to do on that laptop. I guess that's not that bad. That could work. I don't like running the capture from the same laptop that I'm doing the work on. Not that that's even a big deal, but just a thought. Let's see. So yeah, anyway, this weekend probably game stream, and probably, possibly, a photo edit or even photo taking stream. We'll see. But these are things I'm not ruling out yet. And if that's what it is, I will be, because I know people are super interested in this, and these will make for the worst photos. So earlier I was complaining about the about how boring it was photographing earbuds. This time, wait, where is it? Oh, there it is. This time, the photos I will be working on. Oh, I forgot to change. Yeah, there we go. The photos I will be working on are going to be a microphone. This little guy. Yeah, hey. It almost looks like it lines up pretty perfectly with the eyes. Anyway, it'll be this microphone. This microphone, which is a little lavalier mic, and the dongle that it attaches to, and this microphone, a tiny little version of one that I've used in the past for other purposes. So yeah, if I'm doing photo work, it's going to be on 3 pieces of pure black or virtually all black gear that is just microphones. So they will be the most exciting visual things you could possibly ask for. Or not. I'm 100%, I'm going to have to find cool scenes or environments where I can take pictures of these things, because I do not have any way to make these things look sexy or nice or pretty, because they are just like non-reflective plastics or metals. They are completely utilitarian in look and style. Though arguably, I mean, there's so much to be said for the dead cat. I mean, who doesn't love a good little puffy, furry ball? But we'll see. But yeah, anyway, so that's weekend plans as usual. Of course, you'll see me in Discord. You guys know the routine. Let's see. Oh, and I may have an idea. It's a goofy thing, but I may have an idea for a thing to do for Patreon subscribers. I may bring that. I don't want to talk about it quite yet because it would require a little bit of work, but I might have an interesting idea that could keep that fun. It's still not really a true perk. It's kind of a perk, but not enough of one. But I might have an idea. That's what I'm saying. So as far as I'm ready to say yet. But yeah, anyway. So with that, David, looking forward to the photo edit stream. Is that because you're looking forward to taking a shot? I know there is. I know people are. I've heard it said. There may be a drinking game associated with promises of photo edit streams. It may exist. And even if you guys aren't playing it, I might be. I'm not yet, but I might be. I might try. But anyway, in all likelihood, at least one night should be Control. Unless I get seriously held up. Oh, actually, I do also need to do photos of a drone. So that may also happen. I don't think I'm going to get out in time to do that, though. Not before this weekend. But I desperately need to get that done because the firmware update I was waiting for has now come out. So I need to get this thing out there and actually use it again. But that comes later. Anyway, with that, thank you all for coming by, hanging out, being part of the conversation, chatting with us. And let's see, I hope you all have an excellent morning, noon, afternoon, breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever it is where you're at or what you're listening to. As wisdom would have it, I strongly recommend chocolate. Chocolate's good for you. And yeah, I don't know, I'm just being random as fuck. But with that, I hope you all have an excellent rest of the week, and I will see you in the next one. At least next RambleCast, if not sooner with this weekend. Good night, everybody.